homeroom term. Oh, sorry about that. You can go into the homeroom, select a full year term, okay? And then the homerooms there are going to be all of the teachers that you guys have set up throughout the course of the year, okay? Once you select on that teacher or that particular teacher, okay, you can go down, select the student status or whatnot, which is usually they're already set up active and active. Here, there's many schools that are set up, or excuse me, sections that are set up for student statuses. Okay. And then hit preview students, and it should give you, based on the grade level, okay, those list of students there. Now, of course, it's not going to do it because it's a high school, but you guys get the gist. So with ad hocs there, you have ability there to kind of not, I guess in the EMIS world, you can say cheat your way there, but this kind of gives you a shortcut to kind of get through a lot of the things that are kind of tedious or whatnot when you're setting new enrollments up, okay, and also classrooms up, okay. You have your bulk course updates, okay. You also have your manual course updates. So this kind of gives you some latitude in terms of just updating everything in bulk. Okay. Like I said before, for all you veterans out there, this is kind of like your best friend, the ad hoc updates. Okay. But I'm just kind of giving you a visual so you guys can see exactly what this is and what this represents. Like I said before, for the veterans out there, you guys use this a lot. For the newbies that's in there or whatnot, this will be your best friend moving forward because it cuts through a lot of the red tape there. Okay. So just kind of just showing you the ins and outs of that. And here it just kind of just gives you an explanation here and some definitions under the ad hoc capabilities and what everything represents. Okay. This is good for all you newbies out there who are saying, hey, I don't even know what some of these terms mean. This kind of just gives you a breakdown of what each individual tab represents. Okay. And what that means to you in terms of insist. Okay. So, like I said before, this is pretty much just basically a review. Okay. Not anything in terms of drastic or any drastic changes that you guys are not already familiar with. Okay. And here it's just finishing up here in terms of the definitions or whatnot. For you newbies out there, take these pages. And if you guys are still trying to learn and you're saying, Tim, you're talking a whole bunch of like different language that I do not understand, please keep this by your side because this could be a good reference for you to use. If you're saying, hey, I don't even know what this is, what is this or whatnot, you guys have a good reference to kind of fall back on. Okay. So just kind of giving you a heads up with that. And I apologize if you hear like anything in the background. I'm in the, the hospital room with my wife here. So I apologize for that. So here are just a couple of reminders, and I'm on page 8 here, okay? And this is just kind of giving you a heads up in terms of just letting you know, hey, to wipe in new from the period L checklist. And we'll go into this or whatnot when we approach the staff course collection, okay? A couple weeks down the road, just kind of letting you know. This is just kind of giving you some reminders, okay, going into the S reporting period of what to look out for or where frontline felt like, hey, just kind of keep this in the back of your head. Okay. And like I said, for you newbies, make sure you keep this by your side as well. This is going over basically your service only students, your home educated and non-public students, any students that you have that are on autism scholarships. Okay. This is kind of giving you a heads up on what to look for. Keep in mind, okay, that these students are required to be reported to EMIS. Okay. And they are included in the child count for October. Okay. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. But I just figure I'll let you know because I have had tickets before in the past where they've asked about reporting students with on autism scholarships. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind there. Also, for your John Peterson scholarship students, okay, just letting you guys be aware that if you have students who are resident districts sending a student out to a JPS, you want to use the EMIS situation 473, even if the JPS program is housed at a non-public school, okay? If your district is not the resident district of a JPS student at a non-pub, use a service-only EMIS situation. I've had a couple of tickets in the past in relations to the John Peterson Scholarship student and in terms of what EMIS situation to use. So I'm glad they pointed that out. Just kind of giving you a heads up. And like I said, if you ever get stuck and say, hey, you know, what particular EMIS situation to use, that 473 code will kind of remedy all those situations or issues you may have. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Also gives you a heads up on preschool students, okay, found to be ineligible for service. And preschool students who are found to be ineligible for services, they must be admitted and withdrawn on the same day. Keep that in mind. Okay. So remember to put the students on a non-attending calendar so they aren't reported with any attendance hours when your ATTUPEMIS runs. Okay. So for those preschool students, make sure they are admitted and withdrawn on the same day. Okay. And that they are linked to a non-attending calendar. If you guys have any questions about that, feel free to ask, but that's just one of the updates that they've given before this school year has started, actually going into the fall. So just figure I'll let you guys know that there. And down below, and just to elaborate any further on that there, if any preschool student doesn't have an SSID, you want to register the student and wait for the SSID to be returned before withdrawing the student, okay? The SSID locator does not process withdrawn students. Many of you are aware of that, but I just want to emphasize that again, okay? For College Credit Plus students, okay, just kind of gives you an update and breakdown in terms of where they stand in terms of with College Credit Plus students. There is a note, which is they have an update down below of students who have a cent 2% of time for preschool that is greater than zero must excuse me, must have a district relationship of one. If the district reporting the student is responsible for the cost of the College Credit Plus course, then they must report the PS sent 2% of time and CCP counts as providing instruction. And I apologize if I said PS preschool. It's been a long night. They are in a relationship one. Now, I'll go into explain this a little bit more as we move forward, but this is just giving you an update in terms of the updates Frontline has given to us. Okay. It touch bases on STEM schools. I'm not going to go too much into that, but it kind of gives you a breakdown on STEM schools, updates on that as well. Okay. So, like I said before, if any of you guys get stuck in there and say, hey, I'm having some issues with X, Y, and Z in relations to STEM schools, you have that available to you. Okay. Gender identity and preferred pronouns. Okay. They also touch base on that. This is new here. You guys just want to probably pay attention to this. The values that are not EMIS reportable and are not required. Okay. However, beginning with the 23-24 civil rights reporting, reported during the 24-25 school year, the CRDC has indicated that schools, LEAs that already, generate student enrollment data to include non-binary students are required to report the non-binary data, okay? If your district includes non-binary data for its students, they need to include that data when reporting civil rights data. When completing the gender identity field, it only needs to be updated for those students with a different value than their birth gender. Okay, so this is just letting you guys know that the non-binaries data, okay, will need to be reported for the civil rights reporting. And I know for all you guys in this room, civil rights reporting for you guys is a big, huge party and powwow. That's sarcasm. But just letting you know that there's one more thing that you guys are going to have to look out for when reporting that civil rights data for this year. Okay. This here just touches base on the FD and FN tabs. Okay. FD, which covers, of course, you guys know your migrant status, disability conditions, free and reduced lunch. Make sure that for those people who are reporting your free and reduced lunch, you guys do get funding for that. Okay. So just make sure that that all is updated and basically up to date. Okay. Homeless status, unaccompanied youth, migrant status, immigrant status, and foreign exchange students. That's in your FD attributes section, okay? FN attributes, this just covers your accountability IRN, the count of graduation credits at entry. Of course, you're attending building IRN next year. Your FN graduate, of course, is your non-attending graduate data, and then your FN graduate now displays, and that's grayed out of the FN graduate elements. A lot of you guys know that, but this is just a review of what these particular tabs cover. Okay. A lot of you veterans already know, but for you newbies there or whatnot, like I said, this is a good reference to kind of piggyback on just in case you're saying, hey, where do I find this particular column at or section at? You guys have a map or layout here. Okay. The F and graduate elements there, that's also or whatnot that's covered here in SIS. And this is just letting you know what elements that particular section covers there. Okay. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask at any time. Well, this is pretty much a review for everyone here, mostly for the most part. So let's get into task one, and this is for student record updates. Okay. For student record updates, you just want to verify the student admissions and withdrawals. Okay. Due to the student cross-reference system reporting, it is no longer appropriate to expunge no-shows unless they are reported on the FX record. Okay. No-shows can be reported with an FS record or withdrawn with a withdrawal code of 81. Okay. So and I've had a lot of situations where people have asked, hey, what particular code do I go with here? Do I go with, for example, now, if you can find where the student went, great. Okay. A lot of EMIS reporters or whatnot, they're honed in on where they went. And that's great. You have your ODEX as your reference or whatnot too. But if they have not showed up and there's no way you can locate them, then just go with the withdrawal code of 81. Okay. And like I said before, that way it kind of cuts through red tape in terms of saying, hey, you're stressing yourself out and trying to find or pinpoint where the student went. Okay. But like I said before, there's no need or whatnot to basically go through all that if you can just do a withdrawal code of 81, if you can't just say know where the student went or wherever the case may be. Okay. And then we'll discuss this more on task 30. Okay. So for your student record updates, you just want to verify the following types of students are withdrawn for 24-25. You have your no-shows, okay, prior year withdrawals, summer withdrawals, okay, summer graduates, okay, newly enrolled and late start students, okay. Those are the students there that you just want to make sure that you verify that are withdrawn from FY25. Okay. And basically, it's all about cleaning up your data. Of course, you guys know for count week or whatnot, you want to make sure that pretty much everything is cleared up because moving forward or whatnot, ODE is going to go with what you have in the system as of the end of count week. Okay. So you guys want to just make sure that everything is in, whether you have your withdrawals in, where you know where your students, are located or went to, or let's just say, for example, if you have any late enrollments, just make sure that all that data is up to date by the end of count week. Okay. For processing students who were supposed to graduate last year but did not, okay, for those students who had met all their course requirements and were supposed to graduate in FY24 but did not because they did not pass like any testing requirements, should be handled as follows. And it kind of gives you a breakdown here. Okay, you have your enrolled in courses. If the student is enrolled in courses for FY25, you want to report the student with a grade level 13 on the FD tab. Okay. Then I'm going to kind of pinpoint this and kind of harp on this. Do not withdraw the student. Okay. Just make sure that you report the student with the grade level of 13. Okay. Report the summer test results. Okay. As well as any testing that they've done. Make sure that is sent in your assessment collection, which is the A collection in SIS. Okay. Any dropouts, if a student drops out for FY25, You want to report the student as grade level 13 on the FD tab, okay? And with the withdrawal date and withdrawal reason of 75. Okay, so of course, 75 is when a student completed course requirements, but did not pass the appropriate statewide assessments required for graduation. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, for a dropout to become a graduate during the FY25 school year, if the student was a dropout, as indicated above, and takes and passes the required assessments during the school year, the following steps need to be taken to report the student in both S and G reporting. Keep that in mind. So this applies to the S reporting and G reporting. You want to expunge the student from FY25, add a summer withdrawal record with the original withdrawal date and reason, and then re-enroll the student in FY25 as a grad-only student. Okay, so these steps here is what you would follow or whatnot, basically for dropouts who becomes a graduate during the FY25 school year. Okay, registering students who were previously withdrawn and have returned to the district, previously redrawn in FY24, but returning to the district in FY25. Okay. And we'll go over this a little bit more later on. But this is just basically the steps that they're letting you guys know in terms of what to look for with student records. I know things are hectic at the beginning of the year because it's so many moving parts. You got new students coming in late, you got students who are coming and going. Sometimes the parents won't even tell you that they withdrew the students or whatnot from the districts. So I really kind of admire you guys for kind of staying on top of everything as as much as you guys have, and just kind of keeping track of students and where they're coming and going. So just make sure that you guys moving forward, just work with your departments there within the district, just to make sure that you guys can have the most accurate information as possible for your districts. Okay, because at the end of the day, those districts or whatnot are looking at your FTEs and looking at the money that the districts are bringing in. And it's all because of you guys and what the exceptional work that you guys do. So just make sure that you guys are kind of keeping up with those student records and making sure that each student is accounted for. Okay. Down below, they're just mentioning here in terms of referring to admissions and withdrawals. This all is also located in the EMIS manual, okay, in sections 2.1-1. And also with the EMIS manual, they updated that, I believe, in mid-August. So just kind of take a look at that, and just that'll be another reference or great reference for you newbies and also veterans. I know sometimes or whatnot, the EMIS manual can be your friend when it comes to certain situations. So just kind of giving you a heads up that all these situations is located in the EMIS manual as well for you to fall back on. Any questions, Shelly, so far from anybody? It's quiet, so I'm assuming no.
She may have forgotten to unmute, but no questions.
Okay, thanks, Rebecca.
We're good in the room too, Tim.
Okay.
All right, appreciate it. Task 2, reporting preschool students. Okay. All preschool students that are being educated, of course, everyone knows they have to report those students, whether or not they're being funded, non-funded, or private pay. You must report all those preschool students. Okay. Now, typically, and I'm just kind of throw this out there because I've gotten a lot of tickets and saying, hey, I got all these fatals or whatnot. Why am I coming up with all these fatals? Usually what happens is for preschool students, if they're not getting some sort of funding, whether it be through a grant or through a uh like a oh gosh, a grant or like special ed or whatnot, those preschool students are just going to show up as fatals. It does not mean that the information is wrong. Okay, that just means that those students are accounted for, but due to the fact that there's no funding associated, they may be private pay students that you guys have. They are going to be reported. They're just going to be reported as fatals. So I don't want anybody to freak out or anything like that. Okay, I'm just kind of giving you a heads up. And this is mainly just associated or directed to the newbies who submit the data. If you do see those fatals and they are your preschool students, chances are they do not have any funding associated with them, whether it be special ed, whether it be any type of grants or whatnot through the state. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Okay. If a preschool student is receiving services as directed by their IEP and no public district implementing those services has the student enrolled in a preschool course, okay, then the district implementing those non-center based services may report the student with a district relationship of 1 instead of 2. The district reporting the relationship of 1 should report an appropriate student percent of time based on the amount of time the district is providing IEP directed services. A lot of you veterans are familiar with this or whatnot. Typically, with your IEPs, and I just say this as well, I've had situations where ETRs were set up at a later time. Now, here's the thing with that. If they are set up at a later time and that IEP is set up at a later time, okay? If I were you guys or whatnot, and let's just say, for example, it's the end of the year. So let's just say this past May, there were IEPs or whatnot set up for a future date. And let's just say like in the summer. If I were you guys, because the school year is already out, that IEP, I would just start at the beginning of the year so you guys can get credit for that particular student. Okay. A lot of times what happens is, and what ODE will do is, and you guys are doing a great job in saying, hey, this IEP and ETR is reported in the summer. And that's great. But what's going to happen is you're going to get that dreaded no IEP typically, not saying all the time, but typically when the school year starts. So you just want to make sure that you backdate that IEP to the start of the school year so you guys can get funding for that particular student. Any questions to that? Because I know I get a lot of tickets in regards to that.
Timothy,
Yes.
this is Tracy.
Hey, Tracy.
Good morning. Okay, can you say that one more time? I just want to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying because traditionally a lot of preschool meetings are held in May.
Right, right. So typically, if you guys have an IEP or an ETR that is set up at the end of the year, and let's just say that the IEP, I've had situations, Tracy, where the IEP is set up in June, right? And we all know that the kids are pretty much out in June, right? So when the new year starts and you guys do your submissions to ODE and the data collector, 9 times out of 10, it's going to spit back and say, hey, this student has no IEP. And you're saying, well, wait a minute, we set up this IEP in the summer. Why is that the case? Right. So when we went to, when I went to a workshop or whatnot, we were advised for those IEPs that were set up in the summer to when the new year starts to make sure that the IEPs are just backdated to the start of the school year of the new year so that your school can get the necessary funding for that student.
Okay, you're talking about when you say backdate, let's just make sure we're all talking the same thing. We have our meeting date, which will still be May, but the effective start date will be the first day of school.
Correct.
Okay. So the other thing that I was told, and if we could confirm this, and I'm not crazy about this, they say that if a district's not funded because the IEP event was not reported in that 24S, let's say, they say that the district should use an 09, which means out of compliance. Even though you're not out of compliance, they say that you only failed to report it. But it kind of bothers me that the lingo is that way. They didn't fail to report it. They couldn't report it because the services didn't start until August, which obviously is after the June cutoff.
Correct.
So should the district still use that 09?
Yes, that is correct. Now, typically, Tracy, I mean, I know it's kind of screwed up that they are making districts use that, okay? But typically, from what I understand, and let's just touch base on the first part that you brought up with the first day of school, a lot of times, and not saying that, you know, everyone should just kind of go with this or whatnot, but typically when those IEPs are set up at the end of the year, going to the first day of school for the new year is typically the way to go, to where the 09 doesn't really kind of come into play for the most part, Tracy, if that makes any sense.
Well, it does, but
Um,
I want to make sure that, that all the districts receive their funding, because preschool
Right.
reporting is totally different than school age.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a good question to bring up and a good point. For right now, like I said, and I want to move on with this, but let's just touch base on the IEPs later, Tracy, and with the districts as well. And I'll pinpoint that moving forward in terms of making sure that the districts get that first day of school in there for
Okay.
anything that's basically done in the summer or whatnot, or towards the end of the year. And especially for you, Tracy, and we'll talk like we always do or whatnot about that, so we can kind of get clear clarification, because I know you're on a different spectrum than everybody else.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, guys, in pertaining to that? Because I know that's kind of a delicate subject there.
We're good, Tim.
All right. So here it just basically touches base on reporting preschool students for the most part or whatnot. I know this is Tracy's Avenue here, but this kind of gives you a breakdown in terms of funding purposes and basically how those students are going to be reported in SIS. Okay. Down below, and I'm going to touch base on this here because I think this is pretty important here. Students enrolled in an ESC who are not in an ECE program, okay, are to have an H reported for the how received element. Students who are not in an ECE program and are enrolled in a traditional district that is not their resident district are to be reported with a how received code that accurately reflects how they arrived at the district, okay? And this could be through open enrollment or a court placement, okay? If the student is enrolled in special education and an ECE, then E is reported for the how received element. And I'll go over this or whatnot and break this down a little bit more as we move along. But this is just kind of giving you a simple breakdown for preschool students, okay? Down below, they have a breakdown of how to receive values, which is typically your E, H, and I. E representing the preschool ECE, which is your early childhood education grant, okay? Your H, which is the ESC providing instruction related services, and this is at the ESC only. And then you have code I, which is your student receiving non-instructional, supplementary, or related services, okay? So typically options E and H is what a lot of districts and ESCs go with, okay? These are typically the codes that are reported most frequently, okay? And those kids, like I said before, through the grant or basically where the ESC is providing instruction or related services, okay? So just kind of keep that in the back of your minds there. Obtaining and verifying SSIDs, all the great SSIDs. So many of you, when you guys were enrolling students at the beginning of the year, most likely you guys had just minor issues or setbacks in terms of the SSID locator, okay? Once you guys were able to kind of get that active for most of you, okay? You just want to just make sure that with the SSID, that the SSID aligns with the student, and typically if that student has had the same SSID. Now, listen, I know sometimes you'll see kids, sometimes I've seen a kid that's had 6 different SSIDs. I don't even know how they got away with 6, okay, but I've seen it before. You guys just want to kind of just make sure with SSIDs that they're basically, when they're assigned, that they are the right one, okay? And I know that's me saying, like, Tim, like, you sound like a broken record, but this is important because those SSIDs are linked to their testing data, okay? Linked to all their scores that they've taken in the past, okay? Now, I've had situations where when they get to high school, another SSID is attained or created, okay? And there's certain special circumstances in which that situation may come about, okay? But for the most part or whatnot, you just want to just verify that those SSIDs is that particular student, okay? And just make sure that aligns, because you may have another district that say, hey, you're reporting this student with a different SSID. Is this the same one? I don't want districts having any type of arguments or getting into it, or boxing match about an SSID, okay? If you guys have a difference in SSIDs, that's just a matter of a phone call, just kind of just making sure that you guys are on the same page, okay? Because, for example, you can have that student come to your school and in 2 weeks, they're gone and they may go back. and they may flip-flop, and they may be a chess match. So I don't, typically with SSIDs, it's just a matter of communication and just basically researching to make sure that everything aligns up with the student. Okay. And this just gives you basically a breakdown of what they're looking for in terms of how to obtain the SSID. So of course you got their whole demographics, first, last, middle name or whatnot, date of birth, your gender, so on and so on there. Okay. For JVSs and ESCs, all of these fields must be collected, okay, in order to obtain an SSID, in which a lot of you guys are familiar with that. Okay. And just like I said before, verifying, you can run your SSID report in SIS, all right, to make sure that all those SSIDs are basically there. All right. If you guys are having any issues or whatnot, please make sure that you check everything all the way down to the spelling, numbers, the genders, all that good stuff. If anything's out of place, you guys are not going to get an SSID obtained through the locator. So you guys want to make sure you're on point with that. Okay. There is a way that you can also basically export your information into the IBM website, which I believe, does everyone here have access to the SSID website? Not the veterans, but just if there's any newbies, if there's anybody having any issues with that. It's quiet,
Just
so
Tia still, but I
Tia.
think there's a ticket on that.
Okay, okay. And Tia, I'll make a call with you later if she's there, just to get that information to her. But anybody else?
Yep, she's
Everybody,
here.
okay.
Everybody else,
Everybody
I
else
think,
should be okay though. Okay. So this is just basically touching base on SSIDs. Okay. And like I said, if you guys have any issues, just let me know. But this is just giving you a simple breakdown of that there. Okay. And this basically is just elaborating on how to add and update an SSID. Okay. And this is just basically, for example, for the records returned by the locator, if an SSID is returned for a student by the locator, and this is the SSID locator referring to, only the current FS record will be updated. Okay. So basically, it's just letting you guys know if there's any SSIDs that's saying, hey, we don't agree with what's going on with this student, you deal with it. That's basically what it's saying in layman's terms. Then you just want to go ahead and manually enter that SSID, okay, by going into the FS record, clicking on the good pencil there, and just putting that in, okay? And just so and so on. I mean, typically, you may have a couple of students or a handful of students that those SSIDs may not match up. So you just may have to go in there and manually enter them, which is kind of, pretty easy task. And I'll just go into that later, but just letting you know what happens if that situation occurs, if it's returned. For task 4, verifying non-reportable students, okay? Typically, this is found in your EMIS collection underneath verifying non-reportable students. So here, just for anybody here that's kind of saying, Tim, what are you referring to? You want to go to your EMIS section here. Go to your S, and we'll just, let me get out of Ashley. I'm sorry, Janelle, if she's there. I do not want to mess up anything that she has going on. So you want to go to your breadcrumb trail of EMIS. You got your student reporting collection S, verify student data there. And here you have your memberships there, as you can see there, okay? And just basically, this is just pretty much about you guys going there. And like I said, you have your non-reportable students as well, which is right here. So all these here verifying, and this is just not with your non-reportable students and membership programs. You have a lot. You have your demographics, your gifted records, your verifying student special education. This is kind of like your cheat sheet or whatnot, or basically review. So anything that you guys have inputted in SIS, if you go to your verifying here, it's going to bring up all that information. So if you have information that you say, hey, this looks kind of funky, I may need to change this, you guys can go back and look on that report and then go to that student, click on that student, and then it'll take you right to their information. Okay. So that's a great tool to use just in case you're saying, hey, I don't remember this or don't remember that. I got 20 different things going on. you can go to your verifying section there, pull up a report, okay, and then just go to that particular student. So that's a great tool to use, and that's in your EMIS breadcrumb trail, student reporting collection, down below for your student verify update, okay? So down below these three, it's mainly just verifying an update, but you just want to focus on the verifying section there, okay? Down below, they give a visual there, okay, which is what we touched based on, which is verifying your non-reportable students. When you go to your verify non-reportable students there, you're going to see a report and it's going to bring up all your schools, okay? So here, if I click on verify non-student reportable students, it's going to bring up all the buildings underneath the district, okay? Now, once you go ahead and click on verify there, what's going to happen is it's going to bring up some students here that it's saying, hey, you guys may want to go ahead and check on this because we don't agree with this particular student or their data. Okay. So once you go ahead and click on verify, it's going to display records for you. And then you can just go ahead and, like I mentioned before, click on the student's name. Okay. And it's giving you basically what their information is, what's inputted there. And then basically you can say, okay, what's going on with this kid that basically, you see what I'm saying? Or, let me verify my non-reportable students, make sure that's right. Special ed, or wherever the case may be, you can click on these kids and it'll show you the list of students there for your district or that particular school underneath your district. Task 5, running the EMIS FS standing attendance detail report to verify students' EMIS situation assignments, okay? Just keep in mind that this report can just be downloaded in various formats, okay? And this is just verifying your percent of time or whatnot with your FS records. And down below here, before I go to task 6, with your FS standing attendance detail report, okay? That's just basically going into SIS and getting that report there just to make sure that the attendance is up to date if it's correct. Now, I do have situations where there'll be students that are not showing up and are saying, hey, I got all zeros here. Make sure that the calendars match up, okay? Whether it be they are on a kindergarten calendar, a high school calendar or whatnot, make sure that those calendars align, because if they don't, it's going to bring back all zeros for you there. Okay. And there's also other situations, but mainly the calendars, just making sure that those students have the correct calendar for them to get an access to report. Okay. Any questions with that before I move on? I just wanted to emphasize that.
Tim,
Yes.
what is that report called?
It is
Wait, hold on. Go ahead.
No, it is the attendance detail report. Okay, it's the FS standing attendance detail report.
No, the calendar comparison. I found it.
Oh, you found
The
it? Okay.
EMIS admission calendar comparison.
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the
Sorry about that.
Analytic Hub.
I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yes, you just want to make sure that that calendar matches up with that particular student. Okay. I've had situations, and I know I don't want you guys laughing or being befuddled, but I've had situations where a high school kid was matched up with the kindergarten calendar and was no attendance taken for that kid. So, I mean, just the little simplest errors can throw something off. And like I said, just make sure you verify everything before you get that attendance, or look at that attendance just to make sure that everything matches up before you go ahead with those reports there. Because that, like I said, one little thing and SIS can throw off everything. So you just want to just make sure that you're clicking on all cylinders there. Task 6, verifying the percent of time field for students who don't attend 100%. Okay, so basically, down below, and this is here, just they're letting you guys know, or just to emphasize here, you want to refer to dues definition of percent of time and section 2.4 student standing FS record chapter. Now, this is all in the EMIS manual. Okay, but just to skip over all the lingo there. The percent of time field indicates the percent of time the student is instructed by your district employees. Keep that in mind, your district, okay? The percent of time field is shared by all buildings in the district. If a student is enrolled in more than one building, within the district at the same time, the percent of time should reflect the total time. A lot of you veterans know about this, but there have been some situations where the percent of time has been kind of off and it'll mess up everything. So you just want to make sure and verify that for students who are taking courses within your district and it's basically, for example, split up, you want to make sure that that percent is divvied up correctly for that student so that when you're doing your submissions in the FS standing, that there's no issues there. Okay. Typically we've had, and this really kind of happens towards the end of the year, you'll see a lot of percent of time issues or whatnot. Staying on top of things at the beginning of the year will kind of, lighten the load as it comes to the end of the year. Now, listen, there's a lot of moving parts, especially in high school, where there's students going all over the place. So, like I said before, mainly just collaborating with, the counselors and your, curriculum departments to make sure that everybody's on the same page when that comes about. So there's no issues later on down the road. Okay. For preschool students, and this is including itinerant students there, should now be reported with the actual percent of time that they attend. Okay, which is ODE. They have advised that the true percent of time should be calculated for these students, and that 50% and 100% of the time is no longer the standard. Okay, Tracy, you get that? Is she there?
Yes, and
Okay,
50% can still be 50% based upon their calculation. Just
correct,
depends on your hours. So I don't want a
correct.
blanket sentence that if someone sees 50%, they think it's incorrect.
Right, right.
Thank
So,
you.
like, no problem. Just want to kind of emphasize that as that was a update that they touched base this summer on. Okay. Down below, they just give you some examples. So, for example, or for whatnot, you guys can kind of, if there's situations that come up, whether it be with non-preschool ESE students, resident students who take college credit plus courses, okay, students who attend multiple buildings within the same district, okay, just some different scenarios that would apply to this particular task here, okay. So if you guys have any issues or whatnot, or saying, hey, this kind of doesn't seem right, like I said, they're kind of giving you a breakdown of some situations that would apply to this, okay. Typically, for the most part, when you guys set everything up or whatnot, beginning of the year, you guys really should be on kind of cruise control unless something else, comes up, which sometimes it always does. But you just want to make sure, like I said, the beginning of the year is pretty much you setting up your foundation. At the end of the year, the house is pretty much completed. So my analogy is that make sure that everything at the beginning of the year with your EMIS data is just as up to date as possible. And I know, like I said before, beginning of the year, so many moving parts, trying to track kids, make sure that you got an accurate count. I get all that. But as we kind of move forward, especially into like November, December, when it gets kind of slow, that's the times to where we can kind of hone in on, just firming up that data and making sure that everything's correct. So at the end of the year, it won't be as much on your plate there. Okay. And here they give a breadcrumb trail here in terms of going into your admission history there, which, okay, you can access and edit your counter percentages. Okay. That's a shortcut that you can also use there. Okay. So this is just giving you some examples there and how you can sit up there and basically edit those attendance percentages there. And down below, these are just some scenarios they give in terms of with the amount of time spent at the following entities that is not included in the student's percent of time on part 4 there. Okay, and they give some scenarios there for expelled students. Okay, every expelled student, of course, everyone knows will have a percent of time of 0. Everyone knows that. Okay, but they also give scenarios. So from parts 1, and these are under unique situations here, all the way down here through 5, they're just giving you some scenarios that would fit underneath that term. So you have expelled students. So if you want to go back and say, hey, I'm not sure, like this is kind of not, I don't agree with this or whatnot, they're kind of giving you scenarios that can kind of be helpful for you. And just in case if that situation arises. Okay. Task 7, reporting expelled students. Okay. EMIS situations for expelled students, okay? For expelled students should be updated with a new FS record with the date the expulsion begins. Okay, keep that in mind. So you want to make sure that your FS record, you want to update that, okay, with the date the expulsion begins. The EMIS situation will reflect they are expelled and also reflects whether or not the student is receiving instruction and or services, okay? So new EMIS situations have been added to the student information to accommodate expelled students. They are listed down below. So 1 through 3, you have 1, FS standing percent of time, of course, that would be 0%. Sent to 1 IRN, of course, that's all your 9s there. And then sent to 1% of time, 0% if no instruction or services are provided. Okay. So they give you 3 scenarios. There are 3 options there. And you want to go ahead and go with the best case option, which seats fit for that student. Okay. For the expelled students who are receiving instruction and or services are required to have the above values reported as well as the following values. So keep in mind, at top where you see those 3 options, they're saying you got to have one of those 3 options reported and also the value listed below, which is sent to 1% of time. Percent of time the student is being educated receiving services. Okay, so those 2 main points for reporting expelled students must be reported in SIS. Okay. For courses, of course, you know the expelled students who are not receiving services instructions should be dropped from their courses. Okay. And this is just kind of giving you some scenarios here. ODE has indicated that they do not expect to see courses reported for a student who is not receiving instruction. Keep that in mind. This is important for both regular courses and also CTE courses, okay, with weighted funding. Expelled students who are receiving services instruction should remain in any courses that they are still being educated in, okay? So if they're still receiving services and instruction, make sure that those courses are still attached to that student because that's indicating that they're still receiving instruction, okay? If there are courses the student is not receiving educating or services for, those courses should be dropped. Of course, many of you know that, but just kind of giving you a refresher on this. And this here kind of elaborates a little bit more in terms of those courses. I know you guys are pretty much familiar with how this operation is, but for you newbies, this is an excellent way to kind of learn if any students become expelled in your district. This is how you pretty much navigate through that situation in SIS or DASL with this appropriate steps here. Any questions with this in terms of expelled students? No.
We're good, Tim.
All right. And not going to kind of elaborate further, but you guys kind of get the gist with the expelled students. So you want to focus with expelled students on the following, making sure that they're not receiving services. Of course, their courses would be dropped. If they are receiving services or whatnot, you want to make sure that those courses stay on for the duration until whatever end date that is. Okay. Task 8, verifying and updating county of residence on the FS tab, okay? County of residence is just basically referring to which district that student or that particular student is residing, okay? You want to make sure, okay, that the students are updated, I mean, to the T if possible. You want to basically take note of this, that the casino counts are taken the Friday of the first full week in October and the Friday of the first full week in May. Okay. So that's where your casino funding is coming from. Okay. Your first full week in October and also your first full week in May. Funding can be affected if the students have an incorrect county of residence populated at these times. So you guys just want to make sure that all your county of residence there is updated. Okay. To basic, I mean, I've had situations where, believe it or not, a kid has been on the record all year or docket all year, and they had them in the wrong county. And we've had districts where the funding was just all messed up because of that situation. So I know you guys are on it, but just make sure that all your county of residence students are up to date or whatnot, or the county residents for those particular students are up to date. Okay. This kind of gives you some scenarios, okay, in terms of the county residence code reported should be the code for the county in which the student is living. You guys are already familiar with that. This gives you some scenarios down below that, for example, if the student's living with the parents, okay, for a student who's not living with the parents, if a student is homeless, okay, or if the student is out of state, okay. So basically, kind of give you scenarios for which to use, okay. But a lot of you guys are pretty much familiar with that. Here they give you a snapshot here of what to look for, okay? So this is in your FS standing, okay? You got your district of residence, okay, which of course is the school district, and then the county of residence. So that'll be here. We'll just go to Penny Candy here. So down below here's the example of the snapshot, district of residence there, and then you have your county of residence. And the county of residence is going to have that asterisk there, which is going to be important because, like I said, that's going to be for your actual funding there for the first week of October and also in May. Okay, so just make sure that's accurate there. And just to note, if the zip code is valid in more than one county, no UNCLEMIS error will be created. Okay, so keep that in mind. The table that validates the counties accepts any county that has a zip code, okay? So districts will need to review and make updates when needed. Just keep that in mind. This situation hasn't occurred for the most part. So, but if it does, they're just letting you know what will happen in terms of UNCLEMIS is not going to detect the error. So just kind of keep that in mind, guys. Task 9, updating fiscal year beginning 9th for all incoming freshmen, okay? And then this can basically be navigated in the ad hoc updates, is which I kind of went over earlier with. And this is just kind of letting you guys know, hey, in terms of, going about updating everything in terms of with all your 9th graders for FY25. This snapshot here, or this little screenshot here, gives you pretty much, gives you pretty much steps in terms of how to navigate through all this. All you guys in here are pretty much familiar with this steps here, but if you're not and you say, hey, had a brain freeze, long day, this gives you a breakdown on what to do in terms of how to go about that information there, okay? Be sure you are including any retained 9th graders from FY24, the previous year, in your ad hoc file, okay? So keep that in mind. No retained 9th graders are to be in that ad hoc file, okay? You don't want to change the year they begin, okay, as it should remain in FY24 for retained 9th graders, okay? A lot of you guys are familiar with that, but I just want to hone in on that because sometimes we'll have mix-ups or whatnot where the kids are pretty much, it's just a mess. So you just want to make sure that you keep that in mind, okay? Grad points do not calculate for students if the fiscal year beginning 9th field is not populated. Keep that in mind as well. And so that's not populated, okay, or excuse me, the grad points, basically they won't calculate, okay? So the 9th field is not populated, those will not calculate. Keep that in mind as well. When registering students in grades 9 through 12 using the registration wizard, the fiscal year beginning 9th is automatically entered for those students, okay? So you just want to make sure that you review all the information for accuracy there, okay? Task 10, not going to go into this too much, but this is just basically elaborating on your economic disadvantage. And like I said before, you want to make sure that each student has that information updated. That also is tied to your district's funding, okay? And basically that there is located here in your FD tab here under your FD attributes. So if you scroll down there, you're going to see your disadvantagement there, okay? You click on the pencil up top here. Down below, you'll have your disadvantagement options. So economic, okay, academic, okay. Down below here is when you start getting into, and I know a lot of community schools use options 4 through 7, okay, but just kind of giving you your situations here. So economic disadvantage. If you mark the students with the 1 for economic disadvantage, okay, so let's just say you do that. Make sure that you highlight, okay, and I know you guys have the lunch departments that pretty much update all this good stuff here, but it's kind of letting you know, make sure that the free reduced lunch status is updated as well, okay? So if it's, for example, free, of course, you have your free, reduced. Sometimes they can apply and it's denied, but just make sure that that status is updated. That gives your EMIS coordinator, which is you guys, a heads up to let you know, like, hey, this is coming off your, your monthly payments or whatnot. That lets your lunch department know. Of course, they're the ones that's providing information, but you just want to kind of keep a report just in case the treasurer says, hey, why is this lower than what it was last month? You can say, hey, these kids fell off. These kids, were added. So it's just a good tool to use, okay? And with that report, you can access that in the easy query, but I'm just kind of giving you a heads up there. Any questions with that so far?
Hold on. We have a question in the room.
All right.
So, so my food service person just got all our whole entire district free lunch. Is that supposed to be updated for all of them? Because I was looking at some of the.
I think that's statewide, isn't the free lunch?
Yes, that free lunch is a district wide. That doesn't make them disadvantaged. You still want to report your disadvantage.
Yeah.
Separately than giving just because everybody gets free lunch doesn't mean they qualify under the disadvantage guidelines. I think, I don't know what anybody else. That makes sense. Like she just did it recently.
Is it the CEP that you guys are on now?
I think it's in Mapleton, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my kids have it. So
I think you would.
What's up, Shelly? I just couldn't hear. Was that Veronica?
Yeah. I know they did a dread or something. I don't, you still have to keep track of that separately, just because your kids have free meals.
And I was gonna ask, because there's like right now, all mine are coded with the ones and the twos for last year, but we are now a CEP. So in looking at this, I need to change them to 4s and 5s. And can you bulk do that?
did you hear Trisha's question, Tim?
Yeah, what was Trisha's question? I couldn't hear.
She said now that they're a CEP, can you bulk update that because she'll have to change some to 4s and 5s?
If they are CEP, that now, does she have a lunch department that does that, or will she be assigned with that?
She laughed.
Oh, oh man. Okay. Well, those will have to be updated manually if those are the CEP. You know what I mean? If you guys have changed to that or whatnot. I know, Trisha, that's, you didn't probably want to hear that, but yeah.
It's all right. That's what I'm wondering. This is Anita.
I just couldn't. Is she okay? I couldn't hear.
That populates economic. I do it I go over and I choose that.
Is it just a couple of students or is it just the whole student body?
It populates the economic. If you choose free or reduced.
So for those of you, I will repeat what Anita said. So she's saying that when she puts in the students, she marks them as free and reduced. That still has to be reported,
Right.
from Veronica's original question, but she marks the free and reduced, then it automatically changes it to the economically disadvantaged.
Right.
So she goes backwards instead of marking it the economically disadvantaged first.
Okay.
Then
Now for Trisha, Shelley, just real quick before we move on, is that Trisha's whole student body that's doing CP now?
Trisha, is it the whole student body or is it just certain kids?
Student body is. But there again, that doesn't mean they qualify as the economic disadvantage.
Right, but the
So
CEP kids.
Yes, everybody is free.
Okay.
Because we're on CEP. But the only ones that are gonna be economic disadvantagement are the ones that are returned on my direct cert that qualify for free.
Got it.
If
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So you
Wow.
need to change the kids from a 1 to a 4.
Correct.
It's like,
Correct. Okay. And with and let her know, Shelley, that I'll talk to her when she gets back to the office. I'll give her a call just to kind of go over that with her because I know that's kind of a big change for them. And that's for
Okay,
Mapleton, right?
and she can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, I'm
Everybody can
sorry.
hear you.
Yeah, so that's kind of a big jump there or change there, Trisha. I'll call you when you get back to the office and we'll go over it, step by step. So make sure we get everything right.
Okay, another question in the room
Mm-hmm.
or comment.
Yeah.
There is an area that you can bulk update. For
That, okay, good, thank you.
You would have to create the ad
The
hoc
list.
membership, but that would be.
That might be better than going into 300 kids.
Yeah.
So Fran's comment was in the bulk update, as long as you have an ad hoc group for your economically disadvantaged kids, you can bulk update them that way.
Right. And
do
I'll
that
have to
every-
see with Trish. I'm gonna have to look at Mapleton to see if they even have that. So we can kind of get that together instead of kind of, you know what I mean? So we'll go over that. Thanks, Fran. I appreciate you for that.
Any other questions in the room? Okay, any questions online? Okay, looks like we're good, Tim.
All right. So, and elaborating a little bit more, just kind of going into a little bit more, I'm not going to be here all day with the disadvantagement or whatnot, but of course, you guys know this applies to, of course, eligibility for free and reduced lunch, resident of the household, student who is known to be a recipient of public assistance, and a Title I application student, okay? Those are the students who meet any of the following conditions for their economic disadvantage, okay? Academic disadvantage is only to be reported for career tech students, okay? And this refers to a student who is having an academic problem that is not due to an identified disability condition. So for all you people there, I think Anita's there. She's there, right? Anita?
Yes, she is.
Yeah, she's pretty much kind of familiar with this here, okay? So just kind of gives you a breakdown
Can
there.
you repeat that for her, please?
Yes, with the academic disadvantage, okay? And that's only reported for career tech students, okay? And it refers to a student who is having an academic problem that is not due to an identified disability condition. So if special ed cannot come with basically an identified disability, okay, that's where the academic disadvantage would come into play. And that would apply to the career technical students there, okay? It just kind of gives you a breakdown in terms of what all that would cover in terms of as it relates to academic disadvantagement. Okay. I don't know if Anita, if you had any situations where you may have used that in the past or used it frequently. I don't think she has from what I've seen.
Okay, hold on. I unmuted Tim, so she's
Okay.
gonna make a comment.
Okay.
Using that, and it's usually our credit recovery kids. Once they come in, they go to our credit recovery lab. And so they are academically disadvantaged, so I mark those, yes.
Did you hear her, Tim?
No, what did she say?
She said those are typically their credit recovery kids, so she marks those kids.
Gotcha. Okay. That's fine. Like I said, I know she was pretty much familiar with this. I know for the other traditional districts that wouldn't apply, just pretty much with Anita, I believe. I think she's the only one in here right now. So, okay.
Vicky's in here. Vicky's in here as well.
Okay, Vicky. Okay. Sorry, Vicky. I didn't mean to, outcast you there. Sorry. But that would pretty much pertain to you people there. Moving on, if a preschool student's preschool poverty level element indicates poverty for a student, then the disadvantagement element should be reported with an option other than the asterisk. Okay, so just kind of giving you a heads up there in terms of with the preschool element there. Okay, as it pertains to disadvantagement. Any other questions before we move on to the task here? All right. Task 11, just verifying race and listen, just make sure that that pretty much is updated, okay? This is generally on the general tab, okay? You want to make sure, and plus two, when you submit your data through the data collector, it's going to let you know that you missed. Okay. Sometimes enrollment or whoever's inputting your students, that can sometimes get overlooked. So that's just a matter of just going back in and just marking to make sure that, for example, if they are Hispanic and Latino, make sure that that is marked. Okay. If it's basically, like I said before, a situation where it's not marked, okay, they will basically not even let you go forward with the enrollment unless that is basically checked. Okay. So just make sure that pretty much is filled in. Okay. And guys are pretty much familiar with that. And they give a breakdown of the race coding, okay, to use or whatnot, which a lot of you guys are familiar with, but it's just a good reference to have. Not going to harp on this too much, but pretty much self-explanatory here. Okay. Task 12, verifying student language. You just want to make sure that the student's language is updated in the general tab or in enrollment or whoever is processing the student. Make sure that that student language is filled in. Okay. Like I said before, pretty self-explanatory here. Any questions that you guys may have, just feel free to drop them in the chat or just interrupt me. But like I said, not going to harp on this too long with task 12 because it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. Down below, they give a breakdown here or a snapshot in the edit student profile. This is in the general tab. Okay. So down below, you're going to see the native language down below. You just want to make sure that that is updated and current with the student. Okay. I'm not going to touch base on that because, like I said, pretty much self-explanatory at that point. Task 13, this is verifying and updating CTE program of concentration. Okay. One of the updates that we received from ODE over the summer, the program area of concentration values will affect the CTE report card as well as next year's exit student follow-up reporting. Okay. This is very, very important. You want to check the EMIS manual for a complete list of the program of concentration codes. Okay. So just make sure that you guys are pretty much on point with your codes and making sure that you're checking them to make sure they're as accurate as possible when you're reporting. Okay. Because it will affect the report card moving forward. Okay. They kind of give you a breakdown in terms of the codes and which ones to use, which one's valid. Okay. So you want to check the EMIS manual just to make sure that you guys are up to speed on them. Okay. The program concentration is used when creating the web exam export files, which a lot of you veterans know. For all you newbies, here is the breadcrumb trail for you to follow. Okay. So it is best to update the students as soon as their program concentration is known. So once you guys get word and they let you guys know, hey, this is the program of concentration, go ahead and set everything up with the students so you guys can be, pretty much aware and on point in terms of what that student is, using in terms of which program to use. The CT program of concentration field is required to be reported with the FN record. Okay. So this is on the FN record here. The CT program of concentration element designates the CTE workforce development program for which a student has met the requirements to be considered a concentrator. Okay, so like I said before, the main point of emphasis here is just to make sure, okay, that the values there for concentration are updated, okay? Because for your district, it will affect the report card. So you guys just want to make sure, beginning of the year, that you guys, just kind of make sure all that information is updated and as accurate as possible, okay, moving forward. Because like I said, at the end of the year and everything, I know it gets kind of crazy and hectic. So just want to make sure that you guys are on point with that there. Okay.
Tim, we have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
And two, one, that's when they completed 2 courses within the same subject. And one place it says 90% or 90 hours or 90% of the course. And so I feel it's a little misleading of when we can actually mark the concentrators. So if they're a concentrator at the end of FY25, that's when they complete their second course. Is that marked for the S collection for 25, or is that marked after the year is over and they've completed the course. Then that's when you repeat it.
Did you please tell me you heard her because it was very long?
No, I couldn't hear. Who asked the question?
Oh, come on, Tim.
It's Bev. You wanna hear-
No, Bev, don't take. I'm
you
so
wanna come
sorry.
here
I
and
couldn't.
answer that?
I couldn't hear you.
Excuse me? Well, and that's, I don't have my documentation, so I'm not sure.
She's gonna repeat the question.
Okay.
Hi, Tim, this is Bev.
Hey, Bev.
So we're marking our CTE concentrators, and for instance, for the students that are in their second course,
Mm-hmm.
it will go through and say it's on the CTAC 101, 102, 103, whichever one it is. It'll say that, yes, we're expecting a concentrator, but when we look at the student, then we'll go, but they haven't completed 2 years or 2 courses.
Mm-hmm.
And so at what point is the sweet point to actually mark a concentrator that is in their second year this year?
That's a good question.
Here, I marked it when they completed it, and then last year, I marked it early. But they granted the same thing.
They're kind of discussing it in the room.
The way
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going through my thing now because, well,
I know in one location in the document, it says they have to complete 2 courses.
Mm-hmm.
And in another part, it says 90% or 90 something. I don't have the documentation in front of me, so on the scheduled hours. So 90% of a second course, you know, could be much earlier than completing the course.
Right.
And Anita's saying she thinks it's or, that they actually use the term or in between.
Versus or 90%. Like,
No, Anita is right too, that there's so many scenarios though. Okay, Bev.
Okay.
I'll wait until after because that's a good because it's so many and I don't want to. It's a lot. It's a couple of them, but I don't want to give you one and then there's other options out there. Okay.
And
We'll talk.
Jill made a comment in the Zoom chat that you just need to make sure that you know which codes your districts has the necessary paperwork to use.
Right. That's also a very good point, Jill. That is correct. Hey, Bev. Well, I'll talk to you afterwards because I just let me think about that.
Yeah, we're all gonna wanna know.
We all need to know the information, the problem.
Yeah.
I did it like Monica last year, did it early, you know.
Yes, that's how,
Last
year.
In the document too, it says they need to have that concentrator for the web exam. Where those kids need to take the web exam.
That's a good question. I don't think about that.
I marked
Yeah.
it early also.
Some of them are saying they marked it early.
Yeah. I mean, that's an option. Yeah. And then what Jill said is actually on point as well. Okay. We'll touch on that or whatnot. Bev, that's an excellent question. We'll touch base on that here shortly after we're done here. So just moving
Hey,
on
Tim,
here.
hold
Yes.
on one second. I'm trying to see if I can turn up the microphone so you can hear them a little bit better.
Okay.
Out with the ceiling mics. So I have. Now I have it set up right. Okay, I'm just trying so you can hear them a little bit better.
Okay. Okay.
So I think we'll have to do a follow-up with that one. I'll work
Yeah.
with Tim, we'll get something and then we'll get it sent out to everybody. We'll send it out to the EMIS group. So you guys all have follow-up information.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good, that was good. Okay. Okay.
I
Down
made a
below.
note, Tim.
I'm sorry,
So-
Shelley. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I made a note, so we'll talk.
Okay, okay, gotcha. Okay. Down below, you will see a link here. Okay. And this is just basically topics for career tech. Okay. And actually, I'll go ahead and send this link out as well. This is actually a pretty good information here that's been updated by ODE. And this just touches base on the information in terms of the actual concentration, the programs or whatnot, any updates that they have in terms of what's going to be applied to the local report cards for next year. So like I said before, this is a good source of information. So Shelley, just make a note for page 26 to get the link so we can go and put that out as well.
Will do.
All right. Down below, they pretty much just touch base on a little bit more in terms of with the concentration there for CTE. Okay. So basically for the district that employs a workforce development teacher is responsible for identifying and reporting CTE concentrators and also the CTE program of concentration. Only the code for one area of concentration may be reported for a student within a collection. Okay, keep that in mind. The program of concentration elements should be reported in the year a student achieves concentrator status and in any subsequent year in which the student is taking courses aligned to their program of concentration. Okay. The current grade level has no relationship to whether or not a student is identified as a concentrator, i.e., a student can be a freshman and be identified as a concentrator. Okay. This is one of the examples they give. You want to update the CT program concentration field in the FN tab, which they give you a screenshot down below. And then you'll see here in purple, I don't know if you guys can see it here. I can go in here. Oh. So down below here, the CT program area there, you want to make sure that this is updated here. It gives you your sections here, okay? CTE program concentration is right below it, okay? And that only just gives you that option there, okay? So you just want to make sure that this area here is updated, okay, is accurate as possible, okay, moving forward, okay? And Jill, you brought up a good point in the chat. I appreciate that. Like I said, you want to make sure also that everything is pretty much approved as well, or you guys are going to get back those errors in the data collector where it's going to say, hey, you know, this is not approved, whatever that saying is. There's so many of them, but we're saying it's not an approved area concentration or wherever the case may be. Make sure that you guys have those programs, okay, approved for your district moving forward, okay? And even if you guys are working on getting those concentration programs approved, just make sure that they are approved by the end of the year, okay? That's a point of emphasis because if they're not, it could lead to a whole bunch of problems moving forward with your end of the year reporting. Any questions with that? It's quiet,
I think
so
we're good.
okay. So moving forward here, this just gives you a snapshot of here of basically how to basically update the CT program of concentration there, getting CT management. And that's just a matter of going to SIS, scheduling, and then CTE management. They give you a breadcrumb trail up top there. Okay. So just kind of letting you know there is a shortcut in which you could use there as well. Okay. Task 14, updating October 31st for your IEP outcome fields. Basically, for everybody here, you guys want to make sure that you guys get all your special ed, everything in before that 31st date, okay? And that's just basically just making sure that your IEP information is up to date there, okay? Like I said before, you guys may have special eds or records or whatnot or IEPs that are written afterwards, okay? And listen, I mean, not everything is going to be in before October 31st, but you just want to make sure that you get as much in before the October 31st date there, okay? So this is just kind of pretty much going over a review in terms of what they're looking for as it applies to the federal child count. The federal child count is going to be in the data collector underneath your level 2 reports. Okay, you should see a federal child count report there. Anybody having any issues accessing that or any questions pertaining to that report?
Yes, we have a question.
Yes.
Not really a question. The spec ed event has to occur by October 31st. It has to be reported in the student collection that closes December 20th. So you have that whole up to December 20th to report it.
So I'll repeat in a summary, if you guys couldn't hear, if the event has to be by the 31st of October, then it needs to be reported in that collection that is due December 20th.
That is for, okay, I know what she's referring to. That is for, okay, for your special rates. Yes. So basically, all this is basically it's just making sure, and I don't want to confuse anybody or whatnot and kind of, you know, get everything out of whack here. Just the districts need to report the updated October 31st IEP outcomes, okay, if it is not age or grade appropriate. Examples include, but are not limited to, a student whose parents originally consented to services, but pulled the student from services prior to October 31st, and situations where an expelled student is given an alternative placement that will be in effect on October 31st. Additionally, a change could occur for a preschool student, especially for those who are part-time. A parental placement in a private preschool program occurs and an LRE is changed for that student. So basically, everything that's in here by December 20th, I know what they're referring to. That is a report that ODE will use to say, hey, this is the final report that we're basically generating, okay, based off the data that you reported up to October 31st. Now, that does not mean that anything after that, they're not going to accept or count, right? Because you're still going to get funding for those IEPs, okay? But that federal child count report is going to be basically of all your IEPs as of the 31st, if that makes any sense to anybody in the room. It's quiet, so I don't know if they're saying yay, nay, or what.
We got thumbs up. We're good.
Okay. So this is just basically kind of giving you a review here. And like I said, all you veterans pretty much know about this or are familiar with this. And this also is also underneath the FN attributes, okay? Underneath the retain and promoted status, okay? So basically, it's just letting you guys know that you guys can see here, okay? The October child count IEP outcome, okay? And this is just basically giving you the IEP, which one they're set up on. So whether it be that they're, you know, receiving the services or whatnot, whatever you put in the student profile should reflect here in the FN tab down here. Okay. Updating English learner options for students. This is task 15. Preschool students who are identified differently than school-age students. Options N and Y are the only valid options for preschool students, okay? For kindergarten students, option Y should only be reported if the student is in the 3rd year of kindergarten, and option S should be only reported if the student is in the 2nd year of kindergarten. So option S for 2nd year, option Y for 3rd. Keep that in mind, okay? So option S 2nd, option Y 3rd, okay? Preschool options N and Y are only valid options. All right. That's the main key points to take away from actually the English learner option there for students. Okay. Down below, it gives you a snapshot here in the FD attributes for English learner. You'll see that there. Okay. The valid codes for English learner status, and they give you a breakdown here. Okay. Keep in mind, like I said, Y and N for preschool. Okay. You got, Y for 3rd year kindergarten, S for 2nd year. Okay, this is just a breakdown of the codes here, listed here on page 29. So just keep that in mind. That's a good, you know, little side note, because we do have little instances at the end of the year where English learner questions come up and it's pertaining to this particular information. Now it's 10:32. We can take like a 10-minute break. We've been on for an hour and a half or whatnot.
Tim, I was just gonna interrupt you and said that's a good stopping.
No, hey Shelly, that's why I think I know you now. So so we left off at task 16. Task 16, I'm not going to really go into that really in great detail. This is just basically updating retained and promoted status for students. Okay. This here is just basically the only element is reported for students in grades 3, and it's reported separately in the retention promotion grade 3 collection window. Okay. This here is basically, like I said before, of note, grade 3 students are also need to be reported in the FY26 retention, which is another year from now, with the retained status element reported for them at that time. Okay, so when that comes out, that checklist comes out, we'll go ahead and address that then. So that's why I didn't want to kind of harp on this right now. Okay, so just like I said before, with your updated and retained promoted status, just make sure that all the students there have the appropriate date, or excuse me, or grade for next year. Okay. And this is going to be in your FNs tab there, and also in the generals tab. Generals tab will be, for example, if a student's in first grade, it'll say grade next year second, and then the FN attributes tab, it'll have the grade for next year, or EMIS grade for next year. Okay. Like I said, nothing, not a big deal. Just wanted to kind of, put an emphasis on that there. Task 17, updating military student identifiers. Okay. For all districts, including JVS schools, they are required to identify students whose parents or legal guardians have been an active member of the Armed Forces or National Guard at any time throughout the current school year. Okay, so this will also be located here in the FN Attributes tab, and that's going to be under the October Child Count IEP Outcomes section there that we discussed earlier. Okay, and keep in mind that the Space Force addition has been added to the option A above, effective for FY25 moving forward. Okay, just to kind of give you a heads up there, and that's going to be located under military student, and that's in the FN attributes section there. Okay, so basically right here, see option A, B, C. Okay, and that's in the FN attributes section there. Task 18, updating admitted from IRN and withdrawn to IRN. This is just basically indicating in the FS standing, okay, the admission reason, which typically is used, the options used are 3, 6, or 7. The admitted from IRN will need to be reported, and this is just basically pinpointing this section here in the FS standing, okay, admission reason there, okay. So when a student is admitted from a non-public school, you want to use the IRN of the non-public school for the admitted from IRN value, and not the IRN of the diocese there. So basically, like I said, once again, that's just referring to your admission reason, which is located here in the FS standing. Okay, so FS standing, admission reason. Okay. So basically, you guys are familiar with that here. Then it kind of gives you some options and just kind of basically some background in terms of the admission reason. Sorry about that, guys. Admission reason there. Okay. For withdrawing a student, okay, you guys want to make sure that not only are you updating the information, which a lot of you veterans know, on the FS standing, okay, but once you put in the date for the district withdrawal date, you want to make sure that you, of course, hit save, hit withdraw, and then basically it'll bring you to this screen here, where you're basically just putting in the same information there, okay? Once you do that, okay, it's going to pretty much update the district information, okay? So you just want to make sure that all that information is entered correctly, okay? Because all this information will be transferred to ODEX. So just make sure that all that information aligns with what was put in the FS standing, okay? A lot of you guys are familiar with this, but just kind of giving you a heads up and review, okay? The withdrawal to IRN value and is stored, okay, in the FS standing, okay? So basically you'll see that, okay, in the FS. down below here. Okay, so you got your withdrawal reason, then withdrawal into IRN. If you guys are not sure what the IRN is, this inspector gadget glass here, or little object here, brings you to a search engine for ODE, in which you can sit up there and try to locate the IRN for the school. Okay, so just kind of giving you a heads up with that there. Task 19, updating the exit status. Okay, so basically what this is it's just making sure down below in the FS standing, okay, down below where the withdrawn to IRN, you will see the updated exit status. Okay, typically if there isn't anything to the updated exit status, okay, there will be no update there. Okay, but if it was, here are the options here. Okay, which basically, like I said before, it'll give an update once that student, whatever, is withdrawn. I don't want to sit up there and kind of get into that, but it kind of gives you your options there for the updated exit status. Okay. Don't want to kind of beat a dead horse there, but that's basically for withdrawn students. Task 20, running the student roster detail report. Okay. And basically this detail report here is just going to be for your roster. It's a good tool to use just in case, like I said before, it kind of gives you a breakdown of your students, their race, gender, status, okay, birth date, telephone number, all that good stuff there. Just basically student demographics where you guys are saying, Tim, what are you talking about? Okay. All you have to do here is, if you just want to make a shortcut here, just put in R101. And that here is your student roster detail report here. Click on that there. Enter in your information here. Okay. Once you enter in this information, okay, all you got to do is just hit submit. Usually hit pick up there, and it'll give you a PDF in which you can sit up there and everything and review your student information there for your particular schools. Okay. Like I said before, it's a good tool to use at the beginning of the year just to kind of go through and say, hey, let me look at these kids and make sure that this is kind of accurate. What do I have in place or whatnot? If you guys are saying, Tim, I don't feel like looking at that, I've had a long day, it can just sit on your desk or whatnot. And from when you have some downtime, you can just pretty much just do a review. This is the outline here of what that review or what that actual report looks like. Okay. Not going to harp on too much of that there, but like I said, a lot of you guys are familiar with this report here. Okay. Task 21, which is running your student verification. Okay. This is going to be under the EMIS tab. Okay. And SIS. Okay. For your S collection. Okay. You just want to make sure and everything that you run this verification and make sure that there's any errors that are there, that you're actually there to basically make those corrections. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory. If you guys have any issues or anything like that, please let us know. But like I said before, a lot of you guys are pretty much familiar with this actual task and what to do here. Okay. So what you want to do is, and just like I said before I move on, is just review your UNCLEMIS error resolution document for detailed explanations, which is just basically saying, hey, they're going to have the errors listed there. Click on the student name, and then they'll basically pinpoint and say, hey, this is the error that you need to look at. Okay. Any questions pertaining to that before I move on? Pretty self-explanatory, but just wanted to see if you guys had any questions here.
No questions, and we do not have any of our community schools attending right now.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip through these tasks here. Okay. And let's go to 24 coming up here. So task 24, verifying your sub counters and your EMIS exceptions are set up. Okay. What you want to do here is just make sure, like I said before, for everybody, this is pretty much done in the summer. I'm verifying your calendars, okay, and your EMIS exceptions. I know with the calendar that we went through and did those exceptions, that you guys sat through and did all those exceptions there. So for the calendar, which that submission is pretty much up, I know I believe the final calendar is on the data collector now, okay? But for the calendar or whatnot, just like I said before, updating exceptions, not going to go into that pretty much, but we already touched base on that. Any questions, let me know. But I know the final calendar, I believe, is posted up, I believe now. So, like I said before, anything that comes up or whatnot, you can make those corrections and those changes and then do a submission for your calendar. Task 25, verifying students are assigned to their correct attendance calendar. Okay. All you want to do or whatnot is just make sure, okay, that like I said before in the student demographic, there is a section down below where you can pinpoint or kind of see which calendar is that student is using or whatnot. Okay. Like I said before, pretty self-explanatory here. If you guys have any questions or anything pertaining to this, let me know. But this is pretty much done pretty much before the start of the school year. And of course, if you have students who are enrolling late, of course, you would know to assign a certain calendar to that particular student. So I'm not going to really harp on this or whatnot. It's pretty self-explanatory here. Okay. Okay.
Tim, can I just make a quick little statement?
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
That was that report
Yes.
that I was,
Yes, go ahead.
that was that analytic hub report that I was looking for earlier. So those of you that are new, just remember in the analytic hub, you can star 5 reports. So since this has been mentioned multiple times through here, that might be one of the reports that you want to star, then it'll be in your favorites. So, and I know I've talked about that in another training, I just didn't remember what it was called, but, so it's now starred for me, so just a little tip, if you're gonna use this, you might wanna start it yourself.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shelley. Appreciate that. So task 26, adding student acceleration records. Just wanted to kind of touch base on this real quick because I know that there's situations out there where acceleration records tickets have come up. Okay. The student acceleration records reported only for students who have a referral from the district's acceleration evaluation committee and were placed on a written acceleration plan. Okay. Acceleration stops being reported if the student is no longer subject or whole grade accelerated. Now, when we had the report card training back in the summer, it was detailed in that actual training or actual presentation that districts do get points or get basically extra credit for acceleration records. So I just want to let all you districts know, for any students that you guys have that are on acceleration records, make sure that that information is put into SIS or DASL, because when it comes to your report card or for your district's report cards, that's extra credit basically given to you guys that can help assist you guys or your districts on your report cards. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there so you guys are pretty much kind of aware, or, you know, if you guys don't remember from the training, that was a point of emphasis that they touched based on with acceleration records. Okay. So basically, depending on what subject they have, make sure that the information is updated so that your district can get the appropriate credit when report card time comes up. Okay. And of course, down here below, you have your subject areas, okay? Like I mentioned before, whether it be math, science, reading, okay, social studies, okay? All those values can be added to that acceleration plan. Also, with acceleration plans, make sure, because ODE is cracking down on this, to make sure that you guys have the appropriate paperwork there, okay? Like they mentioned above with the referrals, okay? Make sure that that all is put in place, because I believe ODE did mention that they're going to start doing random checks or whatnot to make sure that those acceleration records are valid, okay? I guess they just don't want districts saying, hey, we got these kids on acceleration records just to get the credit for report cards. There are some districts, believe it or not, that do that. So just kind of putting that out there, okay? Here, it gives a breadcrumb trail of where to basically go and get those acceleration records inputted. Okay, and this is going to be under the assessments tab, okay, up top. And then your student acceleration, okay, record there, which you can go ahead there and just put in the acceleration status flag and which assessment area it is. You can do all subjects, but like I said before, if they have particular subjects, you can put those in, save, and then just keep going, okay, if you have other students, but just wanted to let you guys be aware of that, okay? Here, just give some general guidelines in terms of what those acceleration records mean, okay? And in terms of And keep this in mind as well. Students that were accelerated in the current school year and one or more of the valid subjects for acceleration collected via this record, or, okay, the student took a state assessment at an accelerated grade level, regardless of whether the acceleration first occurred this year or in a prior year. And then early entrance students should be reported with option A if they were evaluated per local policy. So that is dependent on the district's policy, okay? And is found to be eligible to begin kindergarten or first grade early, okay? So anytime when you're doing these acceleration records, okay, they're going to be reported for these general guidelines that they listed below, okay? The accelerated in the current school year, that just means that the student received instruction at an accelerated grade level in the current year. And like I said before, if any kids that are receiving accelerated courses throughout the course of the year, make sure that you have that documentation or your curriculum department, counselor, whoever that is. So like I said before, if any situations come up where ODE is questioning that, you guys have that as a backup to use, okay? Any questions pertaining to accelerated records, how it pertains to report cards, anything like that? And with that information, you can locate that in the report card presentation that we did in the summer. That information is also in there. So if you guys need me to resend that to you, just shoot me an email or whatnot and say, hey, Tim, can you just let me get that presentation just to have my records again? Okay. Okay, task 27, updating tier 2 dyslexia screeners. Okay. Now, these dyslexia screener results are to be reported in the traditional second and final windows and in the CS-STEM final window. Okay, now there's a snapshot down below where they're letting you know where this information would go. Okay, and it's highlighted in green. Okay, so down below where you see the third grade reading guarantee, that is not to be reported in that area. It is also to be reported in the screener results section, which is going to be in the F and attributes section. So here, I go back to my lovely student here. Let's go down. FN. Down here where it says dyslexia screener result, it's going to be in your FN tab there. Okay. So down below your options there, of course, where you have assessed at risk and then assessed no longer at risk. Okay. These are going to be the results, or excuse me, where you report for your tier 2. Any questions towards that? Pretty self-explanatory, but I wanted to kind of highlight where that information would be inputted. Any questions pertaining to that? It's quiet, so I'm assuming no.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, keep in mind, guys, that the third grade reading guarantee is still available, okay, for districts who wish to track this information for their district use, okay? But it's no longer basically EMIS reportable, okay? So I just want to kind of keep that in, keep that as a mental note or just a note on your desk or computer, file cabinet, whatever, okay? They're no longer EMIS reportable. So basically with the dyslexia screener, you want to zero in on that basically section that I showed you in the F and attributes tab, which is located here.
Tim, two things.
Yes.
One, I'm gonna call out Rebecca to see if she remembers too. I believe in one of our frontline meetings. Do you remember, Rebecca, didn't they say they were removing that third grade reading guarantee information, or were they leaving that a little bit longer? I can't find it, so I'm not sure. I might have just been thinking that.
It seems like it rings a bell that they're getting rid of it.
Yeah, but it's not in the update presentation. So if you think about it or if you find it, let me know. And then Tim, we do have a question in the room.
Yes, go
In
ahead.
fact, he should be able to hear you now. I
Yes, go ahead.
those on now.
Sorry, I had to finish my M&M. On the dyslexic screener, last year we had to do pay 3. And I thought this year it changed to only kindergarten unless requested by a teacher and or parent. Can you confirm or deny that?
I was under the impression that it was from. I was under the impression that it was from. Or from the teacher or the parent. That's what I was under the
Or from the
impression.
teacher or the
parent. That's what I was under the impression.
Can you repeat that? You did cut out.
I'm sorry. I was under the impression that that was based off of the parent or the teacher referral.
The parent or the teacher referral.
Did that make sense at all?
Did that make sense at all?
So. Yeah.
You're talking about in terms of administrating the, or administering
In terms of
the
administrating
screen, right?
Administering the screen, right?
Students coming in to apply. Yes, we have to have that.
Right, but we don't have to do
Or
the other grades.
Right.
Only if they're.
Only if they move to tier 2, right?
Right.
Only tier 2 have to be
Right.
reassessed by parent or a teacher. But tier 1 or the initial dyslexia screener has to be assessed, correct?
Right.
Right.
Okay,
Right? I think,
so everybody takes the first screening, and then if the red flag, they take the tier 2.
correct,
And this tier
Right.
2 is what we report in progress.
Right.
correct.
But I was
Right.
just confirming, so this does not specify the grade levels or that is required this year, and I knew it
No.
changed from last year. I wish it would give us directive on that.
Let me find out. I will find that one out.
But only by parent. Request of parents.
Are you talking for the initial screening or for all?
The initial,
Okay.
thank you.
And those districts that are using the RIMS in data map, they have, I believe, I know that is an update. I think that it's either in place already or coming out with 24.1. It is EMIS flagged in the RIMS. So those codes, just like the 3rd grade reading guarantee before, you can import those from data map. You will now be able to import the dyslexia screening results from, if they mark that on the RIM.
And Shelley, who was that? Was that Bev that asked that? Because I have
I'm
that.
sure
in
who
my
was that?
notes,
Was that
too.
Bev that
I can
asked
email
That
that.
was Bev,
I
yeah.
have that in my.
Hey Bev, I can email you that confirmation
Hey
too.
Bev, I
That
can
from
email
a
you
seminar I
that
had.
confirmation too, that from a seminar I had.
I would appreciate that, thank you.
No problem.
No problem.
So task 28, and this is just basically.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say,
task
I'm sorry.
28.
Tim, I think confirmation for that, just with task 13, we will send that out to everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
So task 28, adding student withdrawal override records, okay? For those of you who are familiar with this, like I said before, this is kind of a broken record, but this is basically a breakdown of when to use the student withdrawal overrides, okay? And just and this is kind of a nice thing to have because as you can see, it gives you the when to use the student withdrawal override, the FC record, along with basically what withdrawal dates would fall into that category, okay? And when to use this particular withdrawal record, okay? So this is a good breakdown to have, just to have in your Rolodex there, just to say, hey, you know, if you get stuck with a particular situation, you always have this to fall back on here. Not going to touch base a lot on this, but like I said before, it's pretty self-explanatory there for those who have used it in the past, okay? Also gives you the number of codes that to use, which is listed below, okay? Okay, and that goes for 40, 42, and so on there, okay? Once reported, the FC record should continue to be reported for the remainder of the S collection for the fiscal year, so keep that in mind, okay? The SSIDs entered into this record are not checked against prior year data. So you guys want to make sure that you guys are checking previous years to make sure there's no type of, you know, situations where this SSID may have been reported in years prior. I've had that situation happen before. If there's any issues or concerns that you have pertaining to this, you can go to the EMIS manual and they have the section outlined there, and which you can go ahead and use that as another reference. Okay. Down below, here's your breadcrumb trail, which is going to be in the EMIS section, maintenance, and then of course your student withdrawal override. Okay. So you got here EMIS here, maintenance. Okay. Student withdrawal, and you can add your SSIDs here on this breadcrumb trail. Okay. And here, of course, you have reporting period S, SSID. You put that in typically. Okay. Withdrawal date. And then here's your withdrawal reasons here. Okay. Once you click save, you can go ahead if you just have one. If you have multiple, of course, you would just go with the whole save and new approach there. Okay. So just kind of let you know where to go as far as your breadcrumb trail there. Okay, up top. Task 29, you're adding your summer withdrawal records. Once again, it gives you a breakdown of when to use this particular withdrawal record. Okay. What withdrawal date to follow. Okay. And whether or not it's in an ODEX. And in this particular situation, it is. Okay. So you want to make sure that, like I said before, with your summer withdrawals, make sure that the student qualifies for that particular withdrawal. I've seen situations where people just be putting in summer withdrawals or whatever, and some of them don't even need summer withdrawals, but they just kind of just put them there. Don't fall into that habit, because that's kind of a bad habit to break or whatnot. But like I said before, gives you a breakdown of when to use this particular withdrawal code. Okay. And this, once again, is under the EMIS maintenance section there. Okay. And like I said before, with your student summer withdrawal record, once again, you're just putting in your SSIDs, withdrawal date, withdrawal reason. Okay. And then you have some notes there that you can use as well. If you have one, of course, you just hit the save and new if you have multiple. Okay. So like I said before, just make sure, like I said before, that you have the SSIDs or the correct ones there pertaining to that particular student. Task 30, add in student reported in error records. Okay. A student reported in error records should be reported for a student who has previously been reported in error for the current school year. Reporting a student with this record type is equivalent to reporting the student with an 81 withdrawal reason on a student FS standing. Okay. The reasons to report or not to report this record type are the same as the reasons to report or not report an 81 withdrawal reason and a full set of enrollment records. Okay, this record is simply a shortcut for that reporting, that will not require the district to maintain a full set of enrollment records and student information. Okay, so basically, once you report this information here, these FX records should continue to be reported for the remainder of the student collections for the fiscal year. Okay, unless that student actually enrolls and attends later in the year. If a student enrolls later in the year, the enrollment records for that student will be used, and the student reported an error record for that SSID will not apply. Okay, so basically down here in the EMIS maintenance tab there, in the student reported an error section,
Tim, we don't have 24.1 installed yet.
yeah, I was just seeing that. Okay. So
Yeah,
basically when that's
I was
installed,
seeing that. Okay. So basically when that's installed,
you'll see this here.
It was supposed to be
You'll see
Thursday, but
this
now
here.
I don't know when. I think they postponed it.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be basically by Thursday
yeah, I thought
night,
it was
but I
supposed to
guess
be
it's not
basically
there.
by Thursday night, but I guess it's.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they canceled all of our open
Yeah.
labs, so I don't know when they're installing it now.
Okay. Well, we'll just keep an eye out for it, Shelly. And then when they put it up, we'll just announce it on the listserv. So this here is what it will look like once that release is applied. Okay. So just kind of giving you guys a heads up on what to look out for. So appreciate the heads up, Shelly. Sorry about that. Task 31, gifted record reporting. Okay, this is just basically going over your gifted data, making sure that that is reported for the reporting period. Okay, gifted funding is based on this data. Okay, so you guys just want to make sure that this data is pretty much updated and accurate to the, or basically current. Okay, I know that there's been some issues with gifted data in the past in terms of it not being reported. You want to make sure that this information is in because that goes towards your district funding. Okay. These used for basically being for students who are assessed or screened and are identified and served gifted data. All enrolled students, whether gifted or not, must have a gifted record. And a lot of you guys are pretty much familiar with that, but just wanted to kind of emphasize that there. Districts are, of course, you guys know, are all required to administer either the SAT or ACT to their juniors each year. The ACT should be considered as a gifted screening. Keep that in mind. For this reason, building level screening rules should be put in place for the juniors taking either of these assessments. In the event a junior does not take the test on the test date, the screening record would need to be removed from his gifted record. So keep that in mind. Okay. But just want to make sure that each student their junior year is taking that test there. So you guys get the appropriate funding for that. Any questions pertaining to gifted data before I move on?
We're good.
Okay, it's quiet. All right. Task 32 is just basically just running your missing gifted students report. Okay. A lot of you guys are familiar with this, but it kind of gives you a breakdown and some screenshots. Don't want to kind of go into this or whatnot, but it kind of gives you basically a snapshot of how to obtain that data. Okay. Which is under your student reports under SIS. Okay. So it just kind of gives you a breakdown of how to obtain these reports. Okay. If there's any questions you have, just let us know. Okay, but it's pretty self-explanatory there. Task 33, creating student special education records. Now, here under the student profile, you will see a section there where you can pretty much create your special education reports. Okay, now make sure when you guys are doing your IEPs or reevaluation IEPs or amended IEPs or whatever, that you guys check for your extended school year services. Now, some of you guys, when you submit your data under the data collector, you'll see does not have extended services, needs to be a Y or an N there. Now, I don't know how your districts are set up for extended services over the course of the summer or course of the year, but if you guys are, you want to mark yes. Of course, if not, you want to mark no. Okay, that will eliminate those level 1 errors there for you on the data collector. And also, like I said, when that's inputted there on the special ed under the profile, make sure that that is checked, okay? Because they are looking for that information, okay? Any questions towards that so far? Okay, it's quiet. Okay. Moving on, this is just basically kind of giving you a breakdown in terms of your special ed imports. A lot of you guys, or some of you guys, use Same Goal, I believe, for special ed. So I know you guys probably did this in the past or whatnot. You guys may use Same Goal or not. So I'm gonna move forward with this here. Next page is just giving you the date type events, basically what those are. You got your NIEPs. You guys are pretty much familiar with that there. Okay. Your amended IEPs. Okay. Your CIEPs, which is just your parent withdrawals consent. Okay. And then, of course, your secondary planning, and that's going to be to where what's the plan going to be moving forward for those kids or whatnot, 14 and above. You guys are pretty much familiar with that as well. Make sure that all the events that take place on or before June 30th are entered in student information and reported in FY25 S, or these students will appear on your FTE adjustments report, okay? And you will not receive the special ed weighted funding for these students, okay? So like I said before, just make sure that you get all that information in before the June 30th date, okay? If you had students in FY24 that were not funded because their spring IEP event was not reported in FY24, make sure you code this year's IEP event for those students with the 09, which is what we touched based on Tracy earlier. This will let ODE know that you were not out of compliance. You will only fail to report the data correctly in EMIS last year. Okay. Keep in mind that the ESCs do not report special education records for preschool students. The resident district is responsible for that reporting. Any questions? I know we touched base on that earlier in this presentation, but just want to kind of hammer that home again. Okay, moving on. Task 34, and this is just creating the FE student graduation requirement records. This is going to be under the grad requirements underneath the special education profiles. I'm not going to go into this pretty much, but a lot of you guys are familiar with this, okay? This gives you the option of choosing your alternative, whether it be your math, reading, science, or writing, your end of course, which gives you your options there, okay? This FE report is to report it for any student who is exempt from the graduation requirements. So you just want to make sure that for those students who are exempt, okay, that you go ahead and mark them accordingly, okay? If the record is being used to report a granting of an exemption in a particular assessment type area combination, it is reported in the first school year of the IEP determination and every year after, okay? Thereby confirming the IEP team has continued the exemption on the IEP. Okay, so this is true even if there is no change in the granted exemptions from one IEP to the next. Okay, so basically in layman's terms, you guys just want to make sure that these exemptions are up to date. Okay, just to make sure that that the records are updated. Okay, that the exemptions are in place and that you guys can have the appropriate information for those students. So if they're exempt from whether or not it's in their course exam, that information is in the system. And this is just kind of giving you a breakdown of where to go in terms of if you were to enter in your assessments there in the assessment area for your graduation points. You guys are familiar with this screen here, okay? Keep in mind that for graduation points, graduation eligibility and transcripts still look at the required for graduation checkbox on the test record. So keep that in mind, okay? Any questions pertaining to this? I know you guys are pretty much on top of this, but I just wanted to kind of do a review.
No, but can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
For those of you that are
Yes, go ahead.
using the export import for the EMIS reports from Single into SIS, when you're doing the FE, make sure you're doing it for high school. You don't need to do it for the elementary because obviously they're not exempt yet. And it takes the process longer. Because it will flag every elementary kid with an N for every single course that they have. So just think about that when you're running that report, to just grab the high school versus all buildings. So if you have any questions with it, if you're newer to running the reports and importing them, let me know, we can walk through it, I can show you how to filter it out, so you're just getting those high school kids. And or you can filter out and just get those Ys. The only problem with just filtering out the Ys is if a kid changes from a Y to an N, you're not gonna catch that kid. So that's the only hesitation I have with just filtering out the Ys. But again, if you have any questions with that, let me know.
Okay, task 35, just verifying the special education records. This can be located in the EMIS tab there for your S Collection and just going in and verifying your special education records. Excuse me, I'm sorry. When you click on the student or whatnot, it'll let you know, hey, this is what you're missing. Hey, this record is not updated. Pretty straightforward or whatnot. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me anytime. But it's pretty much a standard report that they give. If there's any information that they feel like is missing from the student, you guys can click on that student there and go ahead and make those corrections where you see fit. Okay. And like I said before, that's going to be under your EMIS tab, under the verified special ed report there. Okay. When you're running the special ed reports there for the it's going to be like S collection request, you want to go ahead and run date with the last reportable date for that period. Okay. So that would be the 6/30/25 date there. Okay. And like I said before, pretty self-explanatory there, but once you go ahead and click on that, it'll give you a breakdown of what student is missing what. Okay. Or based, like I said before, if the student has a record or whatnot, that, like I said, in your report, it'll give you all the information there. Pretty self-explanatory. Shows here in the snapshot here where to go ahead and locate the events. So it's highlighted down below where it says student special ed events there. Okay. And of course, you just do your event range for the fiscal year. Okay. Or you can do it from previous years as well. Does not make a difference. Okay. And then to receive your special ed reports for your graduation requirements there, they have it here highlighted. So you'll see 3 actual options. You have your verification messages, student special ed events, and then your student special ed grad requirements. Okay. You can get that in the CSV format, PDF, Adobe format as well. Okay. Task 36, updating graduation date and diploma types. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory there, but you can update that during the school year. Okay. So that information can be available for transcripts there. Okay. The JVS schools, just keep in mind that you don't have to fill in the graduation date and diploma type. The resident districts will basically be responsible for that there. Okay. Keep in mind though, that JVSs do have to report the withdrawal, the graduation students with the withdrawal code of 41. Okay. So Anita, I know you're familiar with this, but I had to go over that, Vicky as well. Okay. Any questions with that? Just let me know. Any before I move on. Pretty self-explanatory with task 36. It's quiet, so I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
But I don't know if that's a good thing.
We're good here.
Okay. All right. On a side note for early graduates, keep this in mind. Students who graduated after the first day of school, but before the end of the school year, should already be withdrawn using the withdrawal reason of 99. Keep that in mind. Okay. You can highlight it or just keep that by your Rolodex there. Early graduates can be withdrawn using the power withdrawal, which doesn't drop course section assignments, apply fee waivers, or change the student status. If the seniors are power withdrawn prior to their running their final transcripts, their transcripts will include their withdrawal date. Make sure that the graduation date and diploma type values have been filled in to reflect the actual date of graduation from your district. Okay. And then basically, like I said before, just making sure that this information is up to date is key. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory for you guys, but just like I said before, this is a good tool to kind of reference on if you guys get stuck with anything. Okay. In terms of the graduation reporting, this here is a good a note here to take in here. Summer graduates. Okay. Students who have not finished their coursework by the district's graduation date, but who do finish their coursework and graduate before the first day of the 25-26 school year are reported in period 25. Okay, keep that in mind. Students who graduate after the last day of the school year, but before June 30th are reported as withdrawn in the period S final window and are also reported in period 25G as graduates. Okay. Students who graduate after June 30th may have already been promoted to 25-26. Upon graduating, these students should be withdrawn in the 25-26 school year as summer graduates with the withdrawal date prior to the first date of the new school year. Okay, so you want to update the EMIS graduate elements, okay, with their graduation date and diploma type. Okay, keep that in mind. For grad-only students, students who are not enrolled in your district but graduate by completing their graduation requirements at your district are considered grad-only students. They should be entered as a grad-only student following the steps in registering grad-only students documentation. The graduation date reported for a grad-only student may be a date from the current school year or a prior school year, so keep that in mind. Okay. And down below, they give you some elements here for continuing special education students. Okay, so just like I said before, if a student has a disability condition, student completes educational requirements, Student elects to remain in the district for further training. Student is under age 22 and student has not graduated. If all the following are true, you want to use grade level 23, okay, as the EMIS grade next year, and do not report a graduation date. So all this is important to keep in mind. I had tickets before for grad-only students. This information is very important to that, in terms of those grad-only students, in terms of how you label them moving forward, okay? Down below, they have updating diploma type, diploma date, okay, which you can pretty much do there in terms of following this breadcrumb trail here. A lot of you guys are familiar with this, but like I said before, it's just good to have in the back of your Rolodex here, okay? You can also bulk update the student graduation dates as well, and that's in the ad hocs, okay? And under your update graduation date, okay? So like I said before, your ad hocs is a pretty good tool to use in SIS. If you guys want to do a shortcut there, ad hocs is the way to go. And like I said before, in this particular situation, you can update your graduation dates there. A lot of you people in the room are very familiar with this or whatnot, but like I said, it's a good tool to use if you want to kind of cut through red tape and just do a bulk upload instead. And this basically gives you the steps to use in terms of how to navigate through. So for all you newbies out there or whatnot, this is a good tool to use if you want to go ahead and do your bulk updates for your graduation dates. Okay. Any questions towards this? It's quiet, so I'm gonna kind of move on here. So for your bulk update diploma type, you guys can also use this as well. This is going to be students who are included on the output file who aren't going to graduate. Will need to have the graduation date and diploma type manually removed from their EMIS graduation elements section found under the student exemptions requirements screen. This shows you how to go about doing that and such, and gives you the steps here. Okay. Like I said, if you have any questions relating to these steps, just let me know. But this is a good tool to use just in case you get stuck or you say, hey, Tim, I messed up on this step. Is there any possible way we can get this fixed? It's a pretty quick fix or whatnot, but this is a good tool to use just in case you guys get stuck there in terms of how to update this information here. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory, but like I said, if you have any questions, just let us know. Keep in mind that the student profile bulk update can also be used to update a group of students with either the diploma date or diploma type value, okay? So keep that in mind as well, okay? And that's going to be your student profile bulk update as well. Task 37, power withdrawal graduating seniors from your district, okay? Like I said before, power withdrawal, you guys are pretty much familiar with this, but just kind of let you know a couple of updates that Frontline wanted us to address. Seniors should be withdrawn using the last day of student attendance, not the last day of school. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. If you fail to withdraw graduating students in FY25, they will show on the missing student report for FY26. So you guys want to make sure that you get all your withdrawals for your seniors in, okay? Because if you don't, they're going to show up on that dreaded missing list, okay? So you just make sure, and I know you guys are pros at this, but just make sure that you guys keep up with your seniors, what date they withdraw, and what code that you're using, okay? Here down below is going to be for your power withdrawal steps that you can do. Okay. And like I said before, a lot of you guys are familiar with this, but like I said before, for all you newbies, this is a good tool to use. It's a step-by-step process in which you can go ahead and make that power withdrawal happen for your district. Okay. Keep in mind, if your district has grad-only students, the grade level selected for them when registering was 12. They will appear in the power withdrawal dropdown when grade level 12 is selected. Okay, so you will need to uncheck the grad-only students. If they are not unchecked, the withdrawal date will update to the date selected on the power withdrawal. Okay, so they recommend choosing grade level 13 when registering grad-only students. It is not reported to the data collector, but it is a required field, so keep that in mind. Okay, if they are grade level 13, they are not included in the dropdown of grade 12 students. Okay, so that's an important note to go with there. Like I said before, and this applies to your grad only students. Task 38, updating seniors not graduating from your district. Okay, so unless you have early grads, this task is not completed until near the end of the school year. Okay, not going to really harp on this as we're going to have another training that's going to go over this. Okay, so just like I said before, task 38 is going to be in another training that we'll go more extensively into. Okay, you guys can keep this in the back of your Rolodex or just, nearby, just in case or whatnot. Just when we go in that training, this is pretty much going to cover that. So I'm going to kind of skip this because this is going to be in the next training there. District and building records, okay, task 39. This is pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be under your EMIS maintenance screen and your district and building information and your DN tab. Normally, when you guys submit your counter information, your DN information does come up, okay? And also in your S collection as well. And this just kind of gives you a breakdown here on what to look for in terms of your district organization, okay, which is the DN. And then you have district organization info. Okay, then you have your building organization info. So up here, if you go to your EMIS maintenance, district and building, here you're going to have your district organization info, building organization info, pretty much just going ahead and just putting in your information where you see fit. Okay, you can have connectivity. District provides Wi-Fi access outside the building. If you do, you guys would go ahead and check the box, just kind of letting you guys know what you'll see. Okay. Primary software, your literacy instructions. Okay. Student group. Date student is required to be 5 years old for kindergarten. You have your dates there. Okay. Wellness policy, which is what they're going to be looking for. Okay. Eye exams. Early entrance for kindergarten. If your district has that, you would go ahead and mark that where you see appropriate there. So just kind of giving you a heads up on what you're going to be seeing. Okay. Any questions pertaining to this actual information here? Pretty self-explanatory, but just wanted to kind of go over it and kind of give a visual there of what you'll kind of be seeing there. This is just touching base on what I went over. Okay. So like I said before, if you guys get or have any questions pertaining to this, just let me know. Okay. But this is just kind of giving you a breakdown of what you'll see underneath the district reporting there for your organization. Okay. Organization. Okay. Go ahead, Shelley.
Tim,
Yes.
can I?
Go ahead, Shelley.
Yes, can I,
Yes.
there is a bug. So I'm going back through a ticket that I have with Frontline. When you guys are putting in your primary software, it looks like it is saving for the 24-25 school year. But when you go back in, it comes up blank. This is a known bug and it is supposed to be resolved with the 24.1 release. So just be aware of that. So after we say that the releases come out, you want to double check your primary software to make sure that it is there and saved.
Thanks, Shelley. Appreciate that. So here, as you can see, like I said before, and I kind of went over this here, which you'll see here, okay, with the early entrance for kindergarten. This is just touching base on all that good stuff here, okay? Student groups, your local wellness policy, okay? All this good stuff, your eye exams, early entrance for kindergarten, all that good stuff, your college credit plus, okay? All that information there, you would go ahead and enter into these actual fields here, okay? And this is all going to be located in your district and building information, okay? So all this information that you see located here is all located here, okay? So all these pages here, it's just kind of just giving you some examples and the terminology, okay? A lot of you guys are familiar with this, but like I said before, just review for you guys, okay? Tracking your students with diabetes, that's also information that has to be reported, okay? So just kind of letting you know with that there. Any questions pertaining to this? Oh, and make sure your students with diabetes, please make sure that the information is being reported. ODE is cracking down on that to where if it's not reported from here on out, there is a corrective action that districts are going to have to do. So make sure that that information is being reported. I guess that's for health and safety concerns within the district. Okay, and that information is located here under your diabetes care collection. Okay, so just giving you guys a heads up with that. For your district and building information or whatnot, of course, you know, you got your PE performance measures, okay? And like I said before, that would basically be available to you guys from, of course, your PE instructor there. And that's basically given the grades of limited, proficient, advanced, not evaluated, or not applicable, okay? You guys will see this typically towards the end of the year, but just kind of giving you guys a heads up on what to look forward to, yay, okay? Like I said before, this is just kind of just basically breaking down what the evaluations are for those PE performance measures. Okay. A lot of you guys are familiar with this here, but just kind of giving you a review here and a breakdown of that there. And here you will see that in the district and building information. Okay. And like I said before, a lot of times here with this information here, it's just all about making sure that you guys kind of stay on top of all this good stuff here, just to make sure that at the end of the year, like I said, ODE is going to be cracking down on this. So for some strange reason, they're giving out corrective actions if information is not inputted there. So you just want to make sure that the information is there. Typically with the PE measures, that's towards the end of the year, but the diabetes information, they're really cracking down on that. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up there once again. Down below here, this is just all information that's just reported once again, and this is going to be under the building organization here. Just add new. So here you're going to see here the school, which we'll just put the high school here. And this will be your performance measures. So these are the PE measures I'm referring to. Okay. So you have your buildings, grades, kindergarten to second grade, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 through 12. Okay. And all this information here, the physical education pilot program, positive behavior implementation status, all that information is located here. Okay. Task 40, verifying and updating your membership codes with staff or program provider. Okay. This is just making sure that you guys are just staying on top of your membership groups. Okay. Making sure that those are updated. If you guys need any assistance with these membership codes and groups, it is located in the EMIS manual, section 2.9. They have all the memberships updated, what's valid and what isn't. Okay. So just kind of giving you guys a heads up with that as well. Okay. Here down below, it's just giving you just a heads up in terms of the student information requires start dates on all memberships, but not stop dates. Okay. ODE does not require start and stop dates. So keep that in mind. Sometimes it will shoot back an error if you guys have those end dates typically within the following year. So you guys just want to make sure that you guys just have the start date there. Okay. That's what ODE is looking for. Any questions with the memberships? Because sometimes I know it could be confusing there.
Yes, we have a question.
Yes.
On the membership codes, for the special education ones, when they transfer over, they had an end date. Did that ever get resolved?
No. So basically right now, they're pretty much still ODE is kind of trying to wrap their fingers around that. We asked that on the conference call with David Eli, and there was no kind of like straightforward answer given to when that's going to be patched up. Once they do get that patched up, we'll let you guys know. But right now, they're still trying to figure that out on how they're going to get that reported.
Hold up, there's comments in here, yes.
Yeah.
Last year, when second people did those program codes, they had the start of the IEP and the end of the IEP date, and those were in there, even though it went into the next school year. But I've noticed this year, they all end June 30th, 2025.
Yes, Frontline did update that, so that I know. And then as long as it's in the same building, you can copy the membership codes from one school year to the next.
Okay.
And I believe there's a checkbox that says include membership codes with end date.
Thank you.
Welcome. And remember, you can only copy membership codes for students in the same building. You can't, if they're going from the elementary to the middle school, they will not copy up. You will have to re-enter those.
And those are for kids with IEPs with services.
Yes.
Pain.
Pain. Yes, I've talked with both Frontline and with Single. Since they're not reported, we don't know why it actually needs to be in the export. But the export is coming from Single and, you know, it's like talking with Burger King and McDonald's. They both think they're right. So yes, and I have not gotten a screenshot or anything with that, but I asked when I was going through this training and they said there's a box to say copy with membership codes with end dates. Any other questions? Peyton, all yours.
Okay, we're good. Was that Janelle that asked? I'm sorry.
Lori.
Lori, okay. Yeah, so I know with reporting to ODE, Lori, we don't, I guess they're still trying to figure that out for the memberships and everything. So that's kind of like a question that's always asked in the conference call, and we just never get an answer for it. So I guess that's just a unsolved mystery there with them. So here before, like I said before, just kind of gives you a breakdown of the memberships in terms of inputting them there. It kind of gives a breadcrumb trail snapshot there. A lot of you guys are familiar, but just want to kind of go over that. Task 41, of course, is your updating student membership programs, okay? Make sure, and like I said, with ODE, they update these membership programs every year. So in the month of August, just take a look at what basically membership programs are being updated, okay? There's some that are valid, most are invalid. Excuse me, I'm sorry, most are valid. There are some that are invalid. So they're always kind of changing there, okay? So you just want to kind of keep abreast on what's going on with these actual membership programs, okay? If you have any questions, just let me know. But these membership programs, if you guys need an almanac to that, it is located in the EMIS manual there. I believe it's chapter 2.9. Yeah, it says chapter 2.9 there. So like I said before, it gives you a breakdown of where these membership codes are, what they entail on which and how to use them. Okay. So here it just kind of gives here the ones that were added this year, which you'll see in the EMIS manual down below. Okay. So you have a new career tech student organization, state complete competition participation. So like I said, these are always added, then there's some that's removed. So of course, like I said before, the one down below was removed from the previous year. Okay. So like I said before, this kind of just gives you a breakdown on what's basically being used, what's not. There's a lot of them that are current right now. So if you guys want to just take a look at the EMIS manual, it's good to kind of print out the EMIS manual from year to year, just the membership codes especially, because they're always updating them. Okay.
Oh, go ahead. We have a question.
We have a question.
Yes.
Preschool experience. Do we need the IRN, what's it called? IRN1 for the preschool experience?
I don't believe that's the iron is needed this year. I don't believe so. Now, guys in the room, you guys can, jump in whenever, but I don't believe the IRN was needed for that.
Well, I haven't seen anything that says it is or it isn't.
Yeah, I don't believe that it is. I believe they're more so looking for that membership code more they so than the IRN. You know what I mean?
I do understand what you mean. I'm just looking for clarification and.
Oh, no.
I just feel like I'm not getting it.
No, you're fine.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Shelley, in there?
I don't think so.
Okay. Down below, you should see the membership codes there that are just updated there. Okay. Like I said before, they're always changing them and they're always removing and always adding. So just keep a lookout for that. Okay. And down below, they give you a breadcrumb trail on which to go ahead and edit those memberships there and also update the membership members. So like I said before, any type of situation where you're running into where you get stuck on a membership code, the EMIS manual is a good tool to use. Okay. Like I said before, it gives you a scenario on where to use them and how to use them and when. Okay. This here is your reading improvement monitoring plan, which is your REMPs. Okay. These are required for K-3 students, okay, who are identified as not reading at grade level. A lot of you guys are familiar with that there. So for those who are not on that level there, you guys will definitely need a REMP for those students there to identify if they're getting any tutoring or necessary outside education or in school education, stuff like that there. Okay. But a lot of you guys are familiar with the REMPs there. Okay. This here is just giving you steps on how to basically do your EMIS imports. Okay. A lot of you guys are familiar with this actual steps here in terms of how to navigate, but this kind of gives you a snapshot if you guys get stuck on a particular step. Okay. And on importing your special ed information there, this also here for your student programs is just giving you a breakdown in terms of how to import the files there for your student program. So like I said before, if you have any issues or any situations like that to where the information is not getting processed, just let us know. This here just goes over your graduation seal membership codes. Okay. Like I said before, pretty self-explanatory here. Okay. Keep in mind that districts must add language membership codes to the student's edit membership screen in order for the appropriate language code to be reported when they have planned to earn or earned a seal of biliteracy. I believe I said that right. But like I said before, that's highlighted there. Keep that in mind. Okay. So if they were to receive that seal, these are appropriate steps to follow for that. Okay. You just want to make sure that the plans to earn is checked. Okay. Once that box is checked, okay, like I said before, and the breadcrumb trails up top, that will basically give the students the appropriate seals for their graduation, your degree, okay, or diploma. If you guys have any questions, let us know. But you guys, from when I be checking your records, you guys pretty much are on top of things there in terms of your seals, okay? Now, quick question. That information is given to you guys by your counselors or your curriculum department. Which one? I'm just curious. Anybody?
We're thinking counselors.
I think my counselors actually enter it.
Tricia said she thinks her counselors actually enter it.
Oh, wow. Okay. 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 Just was curious. Okay. And here, just like I said before, it just kind of gives you and how to navigate through all this information here in terms of with the seals or whatnot. You guys are pretty much familiar with all this good stuff here, but all this is going to be located in your graduate tab there. Okay, so you want to go ahead and just take a look at that. And just like I said before, you would just line your seals up from the snapshot here in terms of, pinpointing which seals those students have earned for their diploma. ODE has advised that the earned seal of biliteracy program code should be reported the year it is earned in all years after while the student is enrolled. The copy membership functionality described below can copy up the membership code for any student in the prior year with a membership code, and it gives you the membership code there of 60 and above, okay? The graduation exemptions import screen has been added to the site map to enable you to import a CSV file of student exemptions and diploma seals, okay? Here is the breadcrumb trail for that there, okay? Where you can go ahead and import those files there for those diploma seals, okay? Here down below, it's just some instructions on how to navigate through that. A lot of you guys are pretty much familiar with all this good stuff here, but it's just, like I said, a review for everybody here, okay? And here, which is a snapshot of the student membership screen there, okay? Like I said before, the upcoming 24 release will have some of the codes there available that you don't see, okay? They'll be available on the release. We just don't know when that release is going to be released, okay? So we're just waiting on that from Frontline. Verifying student memberships, okay? And this is the breadcrumb trail for that. This is going to be your R102 report, okay? So you can access that here by typing in here your R102 report. Okay, and this is your student roster by memberships, okay? Just inputting your information here, okay? What grade, okay, what test, and this input in there, the sorting options there. Once you get all the information collected, all right, select pickup and submit, and you should be able to get that report here for your student roster by memberships report, okay? If you have any questions on how to get that information, let me know, but it's pretty self-explanatory there, okay? So just kind of giving you a rundown of how to access that information there, okay? Any questions with memberships with you guys? Are you guys pretty much on top of things in the room or in the chat?
No questions, but I am just gonna make a comment. Several districts have asked about, the gifted membership codes, because it does show up on the GQ report from Sangle, but they do not import at this time, so I put in an enhancement request. There was already one in there, so hopefully it will get bumped up some. So then when you guys are doing that import process, that it'll also import the gifted, but right now, those imports are looking.
Thanks, Shelley, for that. Appreciate it.
I put in what I needed to put in, so hopefully soon we will see that.
All right, appreciate that. So down below, like I said before, you can access this by the 102 report, your R102 report there, okay? Also, you can verify your membership programs, okay, in your EMIS section there, as well as in your analytics hub. So you have multiple areas where you can access the reports on membership codes there and membership programs, okay? And of course, in task 43 and running, you're verifying your updating your memberships. Like I said before, going into your EMIS tab, which is the breadcrumb trail here, and verifying updating memberships. You can also get a report here that'll give you an update in terms of a list of your memberships there for your particular district. Okay. If you have any questions about obtaining this report, just let me know. Pretty self-explanatory there. Okay. There have been some service codes added. Okay, but of course, with the upcoming release, we just haven't got that yet. So once we get it, we'll definitely let you guys know. So if you see any new codes on there and you're saying, Tim, this looks kind of crazy, what is this? Like I said, the 24 release just hasn't been updated. So once it is, we'll just kind of let you guys know what to look for. Okay. And here down below, it's just kind of giving you a layout in terms of what to look for and how to correct the membership errors there, okay? And like I said before, if you have any questions, just let me know, okay? Or just let me, Shelly, or Rebecca know, okay? Pretty self-explanatory there. Task 44, verifying discipline data, okay? Not gonna go too much into this or whatnot, but pretty much all your districts, you guys have your discipline codes set up towards the beginning of the school year, and they're always carried over from the previous year, I'm assuming. So not too much to this or whatnot. If you guys have any questions pertaining to student discipline, it is also located in the EMIS manual, but you guys are pretty much pros from what you guys have been reporting to, ODE and for your report card data. Keep in mind for your discipline codes this year, ODE has informed me that they will be checking to make sure there have been districts, believe it or not, that do not report any discipline data for whatever reason that is. They're going to be cracking down on that. So you guys want to make sure that those discipline codes or whatnot and situations are reported in EMIS. Okay. I know you guys are on top of it, but just had to kind of put that out there. Okay. Of course, it has here some codes there that you guys or whatnot are just are added or whatnot, and kind of gives a breakdown of that there. I'm not going to kind of go into this here because I know we've been here for a while, but it kind of gives a breakdown of all the discipline codes that's been added there. Okay. For every discipline incident with an EMIS reportable action is required to be reported to EMIS. Like I mentioned before, ODE is going to be cracking down on that. So just want to make sure that you guys stay on top of your discipline reporting there. Okay. Also just want to make sure and everything that when you guys do have these discipline records and everything, make sure that you guys have the appropriate codes as well. I did have ODE check up on a district to where a district had put in a crazy code, and ODE was just kind of like concerned because I guess what kind of code it was kind of like on a alert radar with them. So just make sure that the codes kind of align with what the disciplinary action is. Okay. And here is just basically where you can basically verify your discipline information, which is going to be in your EMIS tab there in your S Collection reporting period. Okay. You guys are pretty much familiar with this, but just like I said before, just a review for everyone there. Okay. Attendance reporting, we
Tim,
mentioned this.
I'm gonna stop there for 1 second.
Yeah. Good, Shelley.
We're good.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Task 45, attendance reporting. And this is basically just running your attendance reporting, your hour summary report. Okay. This report basically just provides you a list of each student based on the filters that you have, which is typically going to be your R500 report. Okay. Which is what I use. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that report or not. I know auditors use that for attendance and everything, and FTE reviews as well. Okay. So like I said before, with this report here, just go into the search bar here, R500 there, which is typically going to be your district-wide membership report, which is basically going to be tracking your attendance here. Okay. If you, like I said before, and here's your grades that you can access, your date range in which you could use. Okay. And then just getting your student name and student numbers and all that good stuff there, whatever your sorting options are, hitting submit and just getting your report access there. Okay. Any questions to this report or anything like that? Pretty self-explanatory, but just wanted to kind of go over that.
All good here.
All right. And like I said before, with the attendance report, it gives you a breakdown of course, students who have, how many days they've been absent or whatnot. Like I said before, pretty detailed report. If you guys are looking for any issues with truancy or anything like that, this report is a good report to have. Typically, you want to use that for each week if that's something that you guys prefer. Sometimes you guys don't even need to print it out. You guys can just kind of scroll through it and just kind of see what's going on or whatnot from that standpoint. Like I said, any questions or pertain to this report, just let us know. Okay. Any questions or whatnot, like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. None, it's quiet. Okay. Task 46, okay. This is basically going to be your your attendance, which is reported in all traditional and SOAS S reporting collections. This update here, this is something new, okay? This is going to be pertaining pretty much to your absentee thresholds, your detail and absence threshold summary reports, okay? Which basically is going to be your up-to-date excessive absences, your habitual truancy students there, okay? Like I said, with these reports here, and I don't know, do you guys in the room typically use these reports for your truancy, your attendance officers? Just curious.
I'm getting nods of no.
Okay. Typically or whatnot, like I said before, this collection is in the S reporting period there, okay, in terms of doing this update here. This is something that is new for Ohio Technical Center there, students attending more than 100% of the time. I don't know if this applies. I don't think this applies to any of you guys in the building, okay? But like I said before, if you have any issues with this, just let me know, okay? But I don't even think this even applies for the OTC. I don't even think in that room. Shelly, do you see any no's in there? I don't think it does.
I know.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna kind of skip through this here. Satellite students here, the FS standing tab of the student profile now includes, in a case, of course, it has a satellite student flag to identify satellite students for the attendance calendar, okay? CTE, using the homeschool calendar for CTE satellite students, okay? And like I said before, this is just kind of a synopsis or summary here. I don't even think a lot of this even applies. I know to the CTE, like Anita and Vicky, you guys may use this occasionally from time to time. But like I said before, typically with your R500 report, that's typically the report a lot of districts use, okay? So you'll kind of see that layout there. Students attending CCP part-time will have attendance calculated for the time they are attending the district and attending CCP, okay? The percent of time and sent to percent of time for the CCP will be added together in the attendance calculation for total attendance, okay? So for students who are attending CCP at the school district, both the FS attending and HB 410 attendance will include all absences reported for the student based on the total percent of time. Students attend CCP online or at the college level, okay? Both FS attendance and HB 410 attendance will include all absences reported for the student based on the total percent of time. And then they have categories here down below. Students who are attending CCP 100% of the time on the DNAC sub-calendar will not have their attendance automatically calculated for them and will need to be calculated manually, okay? So for those schools there in which this applies, keep this all in mind there, okay? So from when you're running the nightly attendance calculation or when you're running an ATTUPEMIS, the attendance calculation completes and updates to the FS attendance values as well as the HB 410 reports will be seen immediately, okay? The nightly attendance calculation still runs at the ITC level, which is us, of course. However, districts that need to view more immediate results for their changes can do so by running this actual report, okay? So typically, I know you guys probably don't really run this a lot, okay? But if you were to go ahead and dabble in it, they're giving you pointers and steps in which to go ahead and run this update there, okay? Any questions towards this? I don't even think a lot of you guys even use it, but if you did, this is the way to go in terms of using the steps to apply to the updates there. No questions? It's quiet. Okay. Here for your student attendance calculation here, of course, you're going to see that in the FS attendance section here down below, which they have it here as a snapshot here. Okay, so you're going to see the attendance hours, excused absences, unexcused absences as well. Okay, of course, a lot of you guys are familiar with that there. Okay. Task 47, manually entering in attendance on the FS attendance tab for non-preschool students who attend the ESC, Board of DD students, JVS Satellite Students, non-public students who are placed at a district expense, and OTC students with more than 100% of the time. Okay. This report or update also updates, calculates attendance in hours, although the day fields display too. So keep that in mind. Okay. Down below are some examples of the students who may need to have their attendance calculated manually. This would include JVS Satellite students, non-preschool students, students at the board of DD, non-public students placed at the district expense, and students taking OTC courses that place them over 100% of the time. Okay. Keep in mind that this attendance is calculated for the time of students that attend the CCP as they have perfect attendance. Okay. If the student is part-time at the educating district and part-time CCP student and has an absence, the absence should be entered only for the time they miss from the educating district. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Like I said before, a lot of this here does not apply to you guys, but just like I said before, for those that it does, these are the steps to follow. And these are examples of students who they say that needs to have their attendance calculated manually. So like I said before, you can just kind of take this sheet out of the long list or pages that we have for this checklist here, just to kind of be your reference here if you needed to fall back on there. Here down below, it gives you a snapshot of what the other entity would look like. So it's highlighted in purple here down below, which would give you the calculations there for the attendance, the excused absence, and unexcused absence there. Okay. So for task 48, this is the student truancy excessive absence, okay, record, or the HB 410. Okay. This here absence report just details a summer report there for your excessive absences and truancy. No need to kind of go into this. You guys are pretty much familiar with this here. I'll answer any questions if you guys have any, but this report, I know you guys have sometimes have used this over the course of time, but do you guys have any questions pertaining to this report at all?
Yes, I'm unmuting here.
Yes, go ahead.
For the, this is Lori, Tim.
Hey, Lord.
For the calculations, like task 47 says we have to report for these non-public students, but then they're always excluded from the calculations. Is there any way to run that for, like, for example, our LEAP students that are approaching truancy? How is there a way to have these calculations run for them? Because it says it won't run for them because they're a 0 FTE student.
Right. So there actually, I do have something in my notes here, Lori, for you. Let me finish this and I'll just go ahead and shoot the email your way. And I'll just attach what I have here for you.
Okay.
And maybe that'll help assist or whatnot. And this is coming straight from ODE. Any other questions?
I don't see any.
Okay. Any questions pertaining to task 48? Any at all? It's quiet. Okay. And here's just basically on how to access the report or whatnot in terms of how to basically get a hold of this report here and how to basically do your edit and your actual plans there in terms of with the actual habitual truancy reports there. Okay. Like I said, has anybody in the room use these reports frequently? Shelly, just by show of nods or whatever.
Sorry, what was the question?
No, I'm saying, has anybody used this report here recently, the truancy?
I'm getting head nods of no.
No, okay. Okay. And typically this is ran by the front office, the attendants or whatnot. I'm assuming the front office attendants runs these reports for truancy or whatnot. And if they have any questions, like I said, feel free to email me or drop a ticket in for that. I don't want to kind of harp on this because I know we have a couple tasks left here. And this here is just basically showing what the report's going to show, which is your internal student absences, your intervention, plan tabs, all that good stuff there. That's actually on those actual reports there. But I don't want to kind of harp on that. I'll do that here, if someone else has a question, I'll just go ahead and address it then. And like I said before, this is pretty much a long report, so it's going to give here the events maintenance tab, all that good stuff here, which I believe your attendance people pretty much have a good harp on. Majority of attendance, task 49. You guys are pretty much familiar with this here. You just want to make sure that all this here is just being updated here. Your majority of attendance IRN end date will be March 31st for all students. Okay. So this here gives a breakdown of what they're going to be looking for in terms of for your untested, your 3 through 8 Ohio State test here. Okay. Students who were their first time ninth graders on or after July 1st of 20, well, you see 2014 there, but it has your grades 9 through 12. So March 31st is going to be the date that they're going to be looking for your majority of attendance. Okay. Of course, you know, with the majority of attendance, there will never be an IRN outside of the district boundary. When that determination is made, of course, they have the following here, which is located down below. I'm not going to really touch base on this because a lot of you guys don't even probably even pay attention or whatnot to it, but the majority of attendance, you guys just want to make sure you stay on top of that from time to time during the course of the year. As like I said before, it pretty much kind of gives you an update and updates your schools and your districts there on their actual reporting in SIS and in DASL. Okay. Any questions pertaining to that? Like I said, a lot of you guys, I don't pretty much assume don't even use a majority of attendance frequently. Anything, Shelly, there?
Nothing.
Okay. So down below, like I said before, just kind of gives you some details there on the majority of attendance in terms of particular situations here. Okay. Then for your expelled students, the majority of attendance calculation was updated to apply the normal logic for any student who was expelled and receiving services instruction at any time from the Friday of the first full week of October through March 31st, even if it wasn't full time. Okay. So for students who are enrolled from Friday of the first full week of October through March 31st, are expelled before March 31st and not receiving education or services during the expulsion, have not met the FAY requirements, the MOA IRN will be calculated as asterisks. I'm only doing the expelled students because I know expelled students are kind of a touchy subject in districts. Okay. So like I said before, with the majority attendance, it's going to use those calculations from the first full week of October through March 31st. Okay. You had the majority of EMIS there, which is located in the period S menu, and that's going to be in your verifying updated majority of attendance IRN. Okay. And like I said before, once you go ahead and you do that verify mode, okay, you got to do the verify mode before you do the update mode. So keep that in mind. Verify, then update. And that's going to be in your verify and update majority of attendance IRN. Okay. And that's located in EMIS. And you'll see verify update majority of attendance IRN there. Any questions there pertaining to majority of attendance?
Nothing.
All right. Task 50, then this is your non-graduate course summary. And this is reporting your non-graduate course summary records, okay? Keep in mind that for FY25, the collection window, of course, begins September 19th of 2024, and it ends 9/12 of 2025. And this is going to be for current graduation credit progress collection, okay? Now, typically, a lot of you guys do this towards the end of the year, okay? But it's good to sometimes for periodically from time to time or whatnot to go ahead and do those submissions, okay? Just from time to time. Not saying that you guys have to do it, you know, all at the last minute or whatever the case may be. Because there's so many moving parts in high school and kids are always, whether or not they're changing classes, changing courses, whatever, you still want to go ahead and keep doing those submissions for your non-grads, okay? Only reason being is because, like I said before, there's been situations where people have waited to the end of the, you know, right before the reporting period, and it can just be some level 2s or something like that that comes up where there's a panic going. So what I'm just kind of emphasizing and kind of just, you know, making a suggestion, make sure that these submissions are done throughout the course of the year. Now, I know you're probably going to say, Tim, you idiot, like you can do it towards the end. What does it matter? But I'm just saying, just do it from time to time. That way you can kind of get a jump on your level 2 reports to see what student has what, or what information may be out of sync. Maybe you can kind of get a jump on it early instead of kind of waiting towards the end. So just kind of a FYI there. Pretty self-explanatory, but just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Okay. Any questions pertaining to your grad course summaries? I know you guys did pretty good during this last reporting period, but I didn't know if you guys had run into any hiccups along the way. Nothing? Okay. So this here just kind of gives you a breakdown and a paper trail in terms of how to access your non-graduate course summaries. Okay. And like I said, if you guys have any issues pertaining to this, just let me know. But it seems like everyone had a good jump on everything from the previous year. Okay. I know if Tia is still there. If you have any questions, let me know, Tia, and I can just give you a call 1-on-1 with that if you're running into anything. Okay. But this is just giving you a breakdown on what to do in terms of your steps, in terms of how to do your actual non-grad verifications there, okay, and updates. And here's a paper trail here in the EMIS maintenance tab there for your actual student non-graduate course summary reports there, okay. Once all that data has been corrected, okay, you can basically navigate to this course summary and all the students' records should appear for those particular summer reports, okay? So you guys are familiar with this, but this is just a refresher just to let you know, okay? Task 51, this is your run count of graduation credits for period S. This is just basically going to give you guys a heads up in terms of needs to be reported for students who have earned credit, okay? This is for students who have continuously enrolled in a district, as well as students who are newly enrolled, okay, in the district at any time during the school year. All right. So down below under the student profile, it'll give you a count of graduation credits, okay, on the general tab, which you should see here. I believe this was here last year, but like I said before, it's going to show their credits here on the general tab. So up top here, let me go here. Oops, sorry. So on the general tab, you should see here, since you're on grade 3, of course, you're not going to have any credits to show, but you should see it on the general tab, and it's going to be located here, okay, right there. I'm sorry, on the FN attributes tab. So sorry about that, guys. On the FN attributes tab, it's going to be there underneath the CTE program of concentration. Sorry about that. And you'll see the credits there. Okay, so if you guys are saying, hey, how many credits does a student have, or hey, I'm not trying to look through the records, let me see what's going on, you'll know exactly what that is under the student profile, and that's going to be in the FN attributes tab. Sorry about that, my good people. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, just let me know. But like I said before, pretty self-explanatory there. And here you can go ahead there and do an update on the count of graduation credits at entry. And this is going to be located in the EMIS tab under the collection S, typically at the top there, okay, which is your update there. Okay, so you should see that, okay. And there it's going to give your update count of grads credit entry, and you can just check which schools would apply, okay, and hit submit. Once you do that, you should go ahead and have your updates there, okay. And then task 52 is just basically checking EMIS, basically collecting your data and then submitting there to the data collector there, okay? So of course you have here your run EMIS checks there, of course, which is here, okay? Once you verify your EMIS run request, okay, which is typically a very short process. Once you do that and update that information there, you just go down below here, okay? And then you just go ahead and just submit everything to the data collector, which is in task 53. So I know this was a long one, guys. Sorry if I put you guys to sleep or you guys saying, Tim, hurry up. But I'm sorry, but we had to go through 102 pages. So if you have any questions, just fire away.
And we'll follow up with those questions that you guys had, throughout, so we'll get something sent out, and hopefully we'll get, a date on when 24.1 is going to be released.